Lu Ming nodded, but he secretly heaved a sigh of relief. The people from the Heavenly Palace had yet to attack the elven ancestral land. This meant that Ling Yue and the others were still fine. However, there were so many experts here that Lu Ming naturally couldn't make any moves. He could only stay here and observe the situation. An hour later. Suddenly, Lu Ming raised his head and looked at a spot in the void. The void trembled violently, rippling like water. Then, a figure appeared out of thin air. The Lord of Heaven. Lu Ming understood that the Lord of Heaven that everyone had been waiting for had finally arrived. Greetings, Lord of Heaven. Many experts from the Heavenly Palace bowed to the Lord of Heaven. The Lord of Heaven nodded and stepped forward. Yechu of Beach, what's the situation now? The Yechu of Beach he spoke of was the Lord of Heaven who had been here at the beginning. There is a restriction set up by an reciprocity expert here. Only young people can enter. The older ones can't enter, so I'm waiting for you to discuss countermeasures. Yechu of Beach said. A restriction set up by an reciprocity expert. The Lord of Heaven behind him frowned. This person was called Yelling Flight, and he was also an extremely powerful Lord of Heaven. That's right. The restriction is extremely powerful. It's probably not cast down by a single reciprocity expert. It's probably been constantly reinforced by several reciprocity experts over many generations. We can't break through it with our strength. If we try to break through it forcefully, we'll be in danger. Yechu of Beach said. The Lord of Heaven was known to stand at the peak of the Divine Lord realm. However, no matter how great the peak was, he was still a Divine Lord. There was a huge gap between him and the reciprocity realm. Reciprocity experts controlled origin and existed with the universe. They were not existences that Divine Lords could resist. Even after countless years, a restriction set up by an reciprocity expert was still terrifying. It was not something that Divine Lords could touch. Not to mention, the restriction in the elven ancestral land had been reinforced by several generations of reciprocity experts, making it even more terrifying. Then do you have a countermeasure? Yelling Flight asked. What I mean is to report the situation to a Celestial Venerable and ask a Celestial Venerable to break the restriction. Yechu of Beach said. No. If we have to trouble a Celestial Venerable to deal with a mere elven race, we'll lose face. Yelling Flight shook his head. I had no choice but to do so. Yechu of Beach sighed. The elven race was only ranked 33rd on the primitive race ranking. There were no reciprocity experts now, so the Heavenly Palace did not send a Celestial Venerable to deal with the elven race. Moreover, Celestial Venerables had Celestial Venerables to do. If they troubled a Celestial Venerable because of the elven race, then they, the Lord of Heaven, would lose face. Isn't the elven ancestral land only accessible to the younger generation? Then we'll just send young experts in and kill the remaining elves. Yelling Flight said. That's right. Why didn't I think of this? I was mistaken before and wanted to break the restriction, but I didn't think that I could kill the remaining elves without breaking the restriction. Yechu of Beach was overjoyed. It wasn't that he was stupid, but that he had been too focused on breaking the restriction, so he didn't think about it. However, that Ling Yue is extremely strong. When she was in the Grand Supreme Immortal City, she displayed 11 stars of battle strength, comparable to the Heavenly Daughter of Heaven. If we want to kill her, we have to send out the Heavenly Daughter of Heaven. Yelling Flight said. That's easy. After the battle in the Grand Supreme Immortal City, Yi Chu Tianji went into seclusion to break through to the Divine Master Realm. Not long ago, he broke through to the Divine Master Realm. I'll send him a sound transmission and ask him to come. With him around, Ling Yue will definitely die. Yechu of Beach smiled faintly. Yi Chu Tianji broke through to the Divine Master Realm? Haha, that's great. With him around, nothing will go wrong. Yelling Flight laughed out loud. Yi Chu Tianji was known as the strongest son of heaven before the battle for the origin seed in the Grand Supreme Immortal City. He possessed 12 stars of battle strength, which was rare even in the history of the heavenly human race. Now that he had successfully broken through to the Divine Master Realm, his battle strength was even more terrifying. With him entering the elven ancestral land, Ling Yue would not be able to escape. With Yi Chu Tianji and some other young experts, it's enough to kill the remaining elves. Yechu of Beach smiled, and then sent a sound transmission through the Dream Divine Jade. The conversation between the two Lord of Heaven was not hidden. Everyone present heard it. Yi Chu Tianji. Lu Ming's eyes flashed with a cold light. Peek. Chapter 4509. Lu Ming was surprised that Yechu Tianji had broken through to the Divine Master Realm so quickly. He, Xian Yanqing, and the others were only able to break through to the Divine Master Realm because of the Life Spirit and the Divine Creation Array. In reality, only a few years had passed in the outside world. But thinking about it, it was normal. Before entering the Supreme Immortal City, Yechu Tianji's cultivation was already very high, reaching the peak of the 6th layer of the Emperor God Realm. After entering the Supreme Immortal City, he quickly reached the peak of the 9th layer of the Emperor God Realm. After a period of accumulation, he was almost able to break through to the Divine Master Realm. After the end of the Origin Battle, Yechu Tianji returned to the Heavenly Palace. With the resources of the Heavenly Palace, it wasn't too difficult for him to break through within a few years. What should we do? Lu Ming was deeply worried. If Ling Yue didn't have any heaven-defying opportunities, her cultivation would most likely still be at the 9th layer of the Emperor God Realm. If she met Yechu Tianji, who had already stepped into the Divine Master Realm, she would definitely be no match for him. When Yechu Tianji and the others enter, I will also think of a way to enter. I hope they can choose me. Lu Ming thought to himself. Lu Ming and the others didn't wait for long. About 7 days later, ripples appeared in the void as a group of people broke through the void and arrived. The person in the lead was wearing golden battle armor. His long golden hair fluttered in the wind, and his body emitted a brilliant aura. This person was Yechu Tianji. Behind him followed a group of top geniuses from various races. There were celestial race, angel race, blood race, and so on. They were all direct disciples of some important figures in the Heavenly Palace. However, Yechu Tianji was the only son of heaven-level figure. In fact, among the younger generation of the elf race, Ling Yue was the only one who was difficult to deal with. The others were easy to deal with. With Yechu Tianji in charge, it was enough. After Yechu Tianji arrived, he bowed to the two Lord of Heaven. All right, you guys can go now. Bring out the head of the elf race. Yechu of Beach ordered. Lord of Heaven, don't worry. It won't be long before I can bring the head of the elf race to see you. Yechu Tianji was extremely confident, as if he had already recovered from the shock of the battle at the Supreme Immortal City. Then, with Yechu Tianji as the lead, they set off towards the ancestral land of the elves. Other than Yechu Tianji and the others, they didn't call the others. This time, Lu of Heaven God. Lord of Heaven, wait. Yechu of Heaven. The two heavenly lords furrowed their brows. Yechu. King Yechu said. Lord. Lord of Heaven. Lord. Lu Ming said respectfully. How thoughtful of you. Go on. Yechu of Beach waved his hand casually. He didn't care about a junior from the angel race. Yechu Tianji was expressionless. He didn't care about Lu Ming at all. In his opinion, Lu Ming was just an angel race member who was blinded by greed. He had seen many such people. It didn't matter if he followed them in. It didn't matter if he had one more or one less. Thank you, Lord of Heaven. Lu Ming pretended to be ecstatic and then joined Yechu Tianji and the others. Let's go. Yechu Tianji waved his hand and led the others to the entrance of the elf race's ancestral land. They then entered the entrance one after another. In the next moment, they arrived at the first level of the elf race's ancestral land. Here we are again. I didn't expect to come to the elf race's ancestral land again in this way. Lu Ming sighed in his heart. It was no different from the last time. There was still a strong suppressive force here. Similarly, he could see stone towers in the distance. The stone towers were suppressing some terrifying evil spirits. According to the information we received, there are a total of 9 levels in the elf race's ancestral land. The elf race remnants are probably in the last few levels. However, we can't let our guard down. They might be hiding in the first level. Now spread out and search. Once you find any news of the elf race remnants, report to me immediately. Yechu Tianji said. Yes. Then, everyone spread out and went in all directions. Lu Ming followed the few of them and headed to the east. After flying a certain distance, Lu Ming made his move. Whoosh, whoosh. Lu Ming used his finger as a spear and pointed out a few times. These few youths didn't expect Lu Ming to suddenly attack. They were completely unprepared. In fact, even if they were on guard, they wouldn't be able to block Lu Ming's attack. They were directly pierced through by Lu Ming's finger force and died on the spot. Lu Ming waved his hands and burned the corpses with fire. At the same time, he collected their storage rings. With a flash, he left the place and headed toward the nearest entrance. There were 9 intersections from the first floor to the second floor. Lu Ming had been here once and was very familiar with this place. He easily found the nearest entrance and entered the second floor. Lu Ming speculated that Ling Yue and the others shouldn't be on the first few floors. They should be on the last few floors, or even the 10th floor. That was the safest place. Back then, Ling Yue had fused with the energy of the Holy Seed Mother Tree, and her elf bloodline had become incomparably powerful. Later on, she had absorbed a drop of 5 elements immortal tears, and the strength of her elf bloodline could be said to have reached the peak in the history of the elf race. The elf bloodline could restrain the evil spirits in the elf ancestral land. Ling Yue could come and go as she pleased in the elf ancestral land. In addition, Lu Ming had told the elf clan about the array formation to refine the evil spirit bead. The array formation could also restrain the evil spirits, so it wasn't difficult for Ling Yue and the others to reach the last level. Therefore, Lu Ming did not stop at the first few floors. Instead, he continued to advance towards the last few floors. If the people of the Heavenly Palace wanted to enter the next floor, they had to find the entrance first. Lu Ming was familiar with the road, so his speed was naturally much faster than the people of the Heavenly Palace. Second floor, third floor, fourth floor. Soon, Lu Ming arrived at the 7th floor. The suppression of the 7th floor was already very strong, but it had no effect on Lu Ming. Back then, the restrictive power here had no effect on Lu Ming. Now, Lu Ming's restrictive power was many times stronger than before, so it naturally wouldn't have any effect. After reaching the 7th floor, Lu Ming wasn't in a hurry to go to the 8th floor. Instead, he started to investigate. He was afraid that Ling Yue and the others would miss out on the 7th floor. Jedi! A sharp cry rang out as a dark cloud flew towards Lu Ming. It was an evil spirit. A large group of evil spirits pounced towards Lu Ming. Boom! A powerful aura erupted from Lu Ming's body. This aura, Lu Ming used the great imitation technique to imitate the aura of the elf royal bloodline. When the evil spirits sensed this aura, they were so scared that they ran away. In the blink of an eye, not a single one was left. Lu Ming's figure constantly flickered on the 7th floor. After searching the 7th floor, he did not find any traces of Ling Yue and the others. After that, Lu Ming arrived at the 8th floor. On the 8th floor, there was still no trace of Ling Yue and the others. Soon, Lu Ming arrived at the 9th floor. Chapter 45:10. On the 10th floor of the elven ancestral land, in front of a withered tree, a beautiful figure stood quietly. This figure was the elf princess Ling Yue. And this big tree was the Holy Seed Mother Tree. Back then, Lu Ming had obtained 2 Holy Seed seeds here. Later on, Ling Yue even used the Holy Seed Mother Tree to complete her bloodline evolution. However, the Holy Seed Mother Tree also withered because of this. However, after so many years, some parts of the withered Holy Seed Mother Tree had sprouted new shoots. Around the Holy Seed Mother Tree, there were also some young elves. They looked at Ling Yue, but did not disturb her. Ling Yue looked at the Holy Seed Mother Tree in a daze. The scenes of her adventuring in the elven ancestral land with Lu Ming all those years ago reappeared in her mind. Lu Ming, it's all because of you. It's all because you lied to me. It's all because you pretended to be Mu Yun that my elven clan suffered such a calamity. You caused royal father to be killed, and aunt. As she thought about it, Ling Yue's tears continued to flow as her delicate body began to tremble slightly. After a long while, she finally calmed down. However, I know you didn't mean it, but you should have told me earlier. You shouldn't have lied to me. Sigh, why am I thinking so much? Perhaps, the people from the Heavenly Palace will come in very soon. We will never have the chance to meet again. Ling Yue sighed in her heart. At this moment, Yue! A soft call sounded in Ling Yue's ears. His voice was clear, deep, and magnetic. Upon hearing this voice, Ling Yue's delicate body suddenly trembled. She was too familiar with this voice. It was haunting her dreams, and she would never forget it for the rest of her life. This was Lu Ming's voice. However, how could Lu Ming come here? Even if Lu Ming knew that she was here, the outside of the ancestral land was already surrounded by the Heavenly Palace. How did Lu Ming get in? Illusion, it must be an illusion. Ling Yue, oh Ling Yue, the elves were exterminated mostly because of Lu Ming. Why am I so disappointing? I'm still thinking about him, he should be your enemy. Ling Yue shook her head with all her might, thinking that she was hallucinating. But at this time, the other elves shouted. Who? How did you get in? Mu Yun, no Lu Ming, it's Lu Ming. Lu Ming, you still dare to come here? Hearing these shouts, Yu Wei's heart was trembling, she couldn't help but turn her head. Then she saw a young Yu Wei, her heart couldn't help but beat faster. At the same time, anger, hatred, longing, and other emotions intertwined, causing Ling Yue to be a little dazed for a moment. Yu Wei's Yun sect, Lu Ming opened his mouth and walked towards Ling Yue. He didn't find any traces of Ling Yue and the others on the first 9 floors, so he went to the 10th floor to search. Sure enough, he found that Ling Yue and the others were on the 10th floor. With his cultivation, the elves did not discover any traces of him when he appeared above Ling Yue and the others. It was only when he opened his mouth that the elves discovered him. Lu Ming, stop. You are not allowed to approach the princess. It's all because of you that our elf clan was attacked by the Heavenly Palace and ended up in this state. You still dare to come here, you're courting death. Brothers and sisters, let's attack together and kill this person. We'll avenge His Majesty and our countless fellow elves. The other elves were incomparably furious, treating Lu Ming as a great enemy. One by one, they condensed their battle bows, knocked their arrows, and shot them out. In an instant, hundreds of arrows shot towards Lu Ming. These were all geniuses of the elf clan. Some of them had entered the Supreme Immortal City and were very strong. They had reached the Divine Lord Realm, but there were only a few of them. Most of them were still at the Divine Lord Realm. In Lu Ming's eyes, this kind of cultivation was naturally not enough. Lu Ming reached out and grabbed at the air. Suddenly, the sky was filled with claw shadows. When the claw shadows disappeared, the hundreds of arrows were all in Lu Ming's hand. With a strong squeeze, the hundreds of arrows exploded with a bang, turning into energy and disappearing. You didn't kill the people of the Heavenly Palace, but came to deal with me. Is this your ability? Lu Ming said coldly. We naturally have to kill the people of the Heavenly Palace, but you have to kill them too. That's right. It was you who pretended to be Mu Yun and got involved with us. That's why you were hated by the Heavenly Palace. The elf clan's genius roared. Lu Ming was speechless. The people of the elf clan were right. The elf clan was indeed implicated by him. He could not refute this point. Princess, attack. Kill him. Yes, avenge His Majesty. The elf clan's genius shouted. Ling Yue's delicate body trembled, and her eyes revealed a look of struggle. But in the end, she shouted loudly and activated her origin secret technique. A large bow condensed, and a powerful force poured into it, condensing into an arrow and aiming at Lu Ming. Lu Ming turned around and faced Ling Yue. He didn't say a word and just stared at her in a daze. Lu Ming, what are you doing here? Ling Yue asked. Her delicate body trembled slightly, and the look in her eyes became even more complicated. I'm here to take you out and to a safe place. Lu Ming said. Nonsense, the ancestral land is now surrounded by the Heavenly Palace. How can you take us out? That's complete nonsense. Princess, hurry up and do something. Hurry up and do something. That's right. I suspect that he has already joined the Heavenly Palace. Otherwise, how did he enter the ancestral land when it was surrounded by the Heavenly Palace? These words shook the hearts of all the elves present. Indeed, the entrance of the ancestral land was now surrounded by the Heavenly Palace. The Heavenly Palace was filled with experts. How did Lu Ming get in? Moreover, he seemed to be safe and sound. This was not normal. Could it be that Lu Ming had really joined the Heavenly Palace? The more everyone thought about it, the more likely it was. This must be a scheme of the Heavenly Palace. He wants to trick us out. Yes, the ancestral land has layers of restrictions set by the elf clan's ancestors. Even the Divine Master Realm experts can't enter. The people of the Heavenly Palace can't enter, so he wants to trick us out. We can't be fooled. This person has wild ambitions. Not only did he cause the destruction of our elf clan, he also wants to eliminate the roots. Princess, attack. We can't be soft-hearted. If we don't kill this person, our elf clan will really be exterminated. Some of the elves roared. Originally, there were still elves who believed in Lu Ming. After all, Lu Ming had brought out the seed of the holy tree for the elf clan back then. However, at this moment when the other elves said this, they felt that it was very reasonable and their hearts were burning with anger. Among them was Ling Yue. Lu Ming, I want to avenge my royal father. Ling Yue let out a loud shout and loosened the bowstring in her hand. An arrow flew through the air and shot towards Lu Ming's chest. Lu Ming stood there motionless. He had no intention of dodging at all. The speed of the arrow was too fast. In an instant, it was close to Lu Ming. Seeing that the arrow was about to hit Lu Ming, Ling Yue couldn't help but panic. She shouted, "Lu Ming, get out of the way!" Chapter 45:11. Ling Yue shouted for Lu Ming to dodge. At the same time, she stretched out her hand to grab the arrow. However, it was already too late. The speed of the arrow was too fast, and there was no return. How could Ling Yue catch it just because she wanted to? The arrow hit Lu Ming's chest, pierced through Lu Ming's heart, and came out from his back. Lu Ming was forced back a few steps by the powerful force of the arrow. Ling Yue was stunned. The other elves were also stunned. No one expected that this arrow would hit the target just like that. "Lu Ming, why didn't you dodge?" Ling Yue said with a trembling voice. Based on her understanding of Lu Ming would definitely be able to dodge that arrow. However, Lu Ming clearly had no intention of dodging just now, and deliberately allowed the arrow to hit him. "I deserve this arrow." "You're right, I've implicated the elf race," Yizichen said. Lu Ming sighed and continued, "Moreover, as long as you're happy, so what if you're shot 10 or 100 arrows?" Lu Ming. Ling Yue's voice trembled, and her eyes were filled with complicated emotions. Originally, she thought that she would hate Lu Ming, but when she really saw Lu Ming, she realized that she didn't hate Lu Ming at all. "Yue, come with me. The elves can't be destroyed yet. With you here, the elves still have hope of rising." Lu Ming said. "Lu Ming, you really didn't join the heavenly palace?" Ling Yue said. "Silly girl, of course not. I have a taboo body and am born to be a mortal enemy of the heavenly palace. How could I join the heavenly palace?" Lu Ming raised his voice so that everyone could hear him. Then how did you get in?" An elven genius asked loudly. "You want to know? Then I'll show you." Lu Ming looked at the elf tribe prodigies. His appearance and aura changed rapidly. In the next moment, Lu Ming turned into Ling Yue. Yes, Lu Ming directly used the great imitation technique to transform into Ling Yue's appearance. Even the aura of her life source was exactly the same. Everyone was stunned, including Ling Yue. It wasn't difficult to change one's appearance. In fact, it was very easy. Everyone present found it difficult to do so. However, even the aura of his life source was exactly the same as Ling Yue's. How was this possible? It was simply unbelievable. Everyone's gazes moved back and forth between Ling Yue and Lu Ming, completely unable to tell if they were real or fake. Then, Lu Ming's appearance and aura changed, and he turned into another elven genius. Whether it was his appearance or the aura of the origin of life, he was exactly the same as that elven genius. After that, Lu Ming turned into a youth from the angel race, and his life source aura also became that of the angel race. If they didn't know Lu Ming's true identity beforehand, everyone would have thought that Lu Ming was an angel. In the end, Lu Ming returned to his original appearance. This secret technique is one of the top 3 secret techniques of the 3,000 ancient secret techniques. It's called the Great Imitation Technique. With this secret technique, what's so difficult about entering? Lu Ming said. The elves all fell silent, agreeing with Lu Ming's words in their hearts. Yes, with such a wonderful technique, Lu Ming could completely transform into the celestial race, angel race and so on and openly enter. Moreover, the taboo body and the heavenly palace were indeed mortal enemies. This was publicly acknowledged in the universe. So how could Lu Ming rely on the heavenly palace? Previously, they only thought that way because they saw that Lu Ming was angry. Now that they had calmed down, they knew that Lu Ming didn't mean them any harm. Perhaps he really did come here to save them. However, Lu Ming could change his appearance and life source aura, but the others couldn't. How could Lu Ming take them out? Moreover, the elves were indeed implicated by Lu Ming. It was almost impossible for them to dispel their grudge against Lu Ming so quickly. "I know you blame me and want to kill me. Fine, if you want to kill me in the future, I'll welcome you at any time as long as you have the ability. But don't forget one thing. Now, there are not many elves left. If you don't come with me and die in the hands of the Heavenly Palace, then the elves will really be wiped out. You are the last hope of the elves, understand? Lu Ming said loudly. To be honest, he really didn't take these elves seriously. Even if they wanted to take revenge on him in the future, what was he afraid of? At his current level, his vision and vision were already very high. His current opponents were the Heavenly Palace, those in the Origin Realm. Even if these elves wanted to take revenge on him in the future, they couldn't touch a single hair on his body. Of course, if others wanted to take revenge on him every day, even if they were weak, Lu Ming couldn't be bothered to save them. However, he felt somewhat guilty towards the elves. The other reason was for Ling Yue's sake. Upon hearing Lu Ming's words, there was a commotion among the elves. Yes, even if they didn't fear death, they still had to consider the continuation and inheritance of the elves. If they were all killed by the Heavenly Palace, then the elves would really be finished. How could they face the elves who died in battle? How could they face the elf emperor Ling Huashua and the others? Even if we believe you, how can you take us out? Finally, a young prodigy said, I have a treasure that has formed a world of its own. You can enter it, and I can transform into a heavenly human and leave here easily. Lu Ming said, there's actually a treasure that can form a world of its own. The sky prides of the elf tribe were all shocked and envious. Treasures that could form a world of their own were not rare in a small world. They were very easy to see. In a small world, whether it was the laws of the world or the space, they were all imperfect and unstable. Therefore, it was very easy to cultivate a treasure that could form a world of its own. It could even evolve its own world. However, this kind of treasure would be merged by the primitive universe as soon as it came to the primitive universe because it was too low level. In the primitive universe, it was too difficult to refine a treasure that could form a world. It was extremely difficult and could be said to be very rare. Not to mention other things, after Lu Ming came to the primitive universe, other than the primitive ring, he hadn't seen any other treasure that could form a world of its own. Hurry up and go in. If we wait for the Heavenly Palace's celestial venerables to come, we won't be able to leave even if we want to. Lu Ming said. With a wave of his hand, a huge vortex appeared in the sky. Those from the heavenly human race looked at each other, not knowing what to do for a moment. Let's go with Lu Ming. We have to live. At this moment, Ling Yue spoke. Let's go. Ling Yue's words finally made the elven prodigies make up their minds and rush towards the black hole. In the blink of an eye, all the elven prodigies entered the primitive ring. Ling Yue looked at Lu Ming with a complicated expression. She also raised her feet and walked towards the entrance of the primitive ring. Yue, wait a moment. Lu Ming called out. Ling Yue's delicate body trembled slightly as she stopped. Chapter 45:12. Bang! Lu Ming channeled his taboo energy and shattered the arrow in his chest. His wound was healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. After his cultivation reached the Divine Master Realm, his taboo energy skyrocketed, his physique became even more terrifying, and his vitality became even stronger. A little injury was nothing, but it could quickly recover. Lu Ming stepped out and walked towards Ling Yue. When he arrived in front of Ling Yue, the injury on his chest had already healed. Ling Yue looked at Lu Ming with a complicated expression. She was nervous and expectant, but when she thought about how Lu Ming had implicated the elves, she felt hatred. She didn't know how she should face Lu Ming. Lu Ming walked in front of Ling Yue and looked at her in the eye. Ling Yue's heart couldn't help but beat faster, and her gaze became evasive. Yue, I'm sorry. Lu Ming said gently. This I'm sorry caused Ling Yue's delicate body to tremble. She stared blankly at Lu Ming, and then, tears rolled down like raindrops. There were too many things in her heart. She had always pretended to be strong, but Lu Ming's apology seemed to have broken through Ling Yue's defenses. The emotions in her heart were like a flood that had broken through a dam, exploding in an instant. Grievance, sadness, desolation, loneliness, longing, regret, and a series of other emotions exploded, causing her delicate body to tremble uncontrollably. Tears rolled down her cheeks like pearls. At this moment, she was like a fallen leaf dancing in the wind, lonely and weak, making one feel tender affection for her. Lu Ming walked over and pulled Ling Yue into his embrace. Ling Yue's body stiffened for a moment, and then her arms tightly hugged Lu Ming. Wu, Lu Ming, royal father is dead, aunt is dead, and the elders are all dead. I have nothing left, I have nothing left, I have nothing left, Wu. Ling Yue could no longer hold it in and burst into tears. At this moment, Ling Yue was no longer the famous elf princess. She was just a little girl who had lost her family, sad and helpless. Lu Ming felt a stabbing pain in his heart. No, you don't have nothing. You still have me, Lu Ming whispered. His voice was filled with warmth, love, and guilt. Yes, although she had feelings for Ling Yue, she felt even more guilty. It was different from the feelings she had for Xian Yanqing and Autumn Moon. He and Xian Yanqing had gone through a lot together, from the time they met and got to know each other, from the time they started fighting, to the time they fell in love with each other. Their hearts were tightly stuck together. He was different from Mid-Autumn Moon. The two of them grew up together and were childhood sweethearts. Their feelings for each other were mixed with kinship. Towards Ling Yue, within his feelings, there was more guilt. Woo. Ling Yue cried even more sadly as she hugged Lu Ming tightly, unwilling to let go. Lu Ming also hugged Ling Yue and did not continue speaking. She knew that Ling Yue needed to vent, and after venting, she would feel better. After a long while, Ling Yue's emotions gradually calmed down. Her face was slightly red, and her beauty was indescribable. Lu Ming's heart couldn't help but skip a beat. He couldn't help but lower his head and imprint it on Ling Yue's lips. Ling Yue's delicate body stiffened for a moment before she allowed Lu Ming to do as he pleased. After a long while it was pure. Yue, don't worry. Sooner or later, I will kill my way to the heavenly palace, destroy the celestial race, and avenge the elven race. Lu Ming swore. I believe you. Ling Yue nodded slightly. At this moment, the knot in her heart had been untied, and she no longer had any hatred towards Lu Ming. She knew that what Lu Ming had done back then was also an unintentional act. Her true enemy was the heavenly palace, the celestial race. Lu Ming, why are you here? At this moment, a loud shout rang out. His voice was filled with disbelief. Yi Chu Tianji. Lu Ming's eyes flashed as he turned around to look. Then, he saw Yi Chu Tianji flying over with a group of experts. Yi Chu Tianji had come faster than he had imagined. However, Lu Ming was not surprised. Yi Chu Tianji controlled 3 types of supreme heavenly powers and was incomparably powerful. Just like Lu Ming, he was not afraid of the suppressive force here in the slightest. Furthermore, with his current cultivation, it wouldn't be difficult for him to defeat those evil spirits. Why can't I be here? Lu Ming said indifferently, the corner of his mouth curling up into a sneer. Good, very good, really very good. I was going to look for you, but I didn't expect you to be here. Then, it's time for us to settle the score. Yi Chu Tianji's eyes were cold and filled with killing intent. In the battle for the origin seed in the Taishang Immortal City, he had been suppressed by Lu Ming and was even killed by Lu Ming in front of everyone. If it wasn't for the fact that he could revive there, he would have been dead. He hated Lu Ming to the bone and wanted to eat his flesh and drink his blood. After leaving the Taishang Immortal City, he went into seclusion and tried his best to break through. Finally, he broke through the profound martial realm and reached the Divine Master Realm. After reaching the Divine Master Realm, he was in high spirits. He had planned to find Lu Ming and kill Lu Ming to vent the hatred in his heart. He didn't expect to meet Lu Ming here. It was really a case of searching high and low for something, only to find it by chance. Even the heavens were helping him to take revenge. You can't revive here. Aren't you afraid of death? Lu Ming said indifferently. Ha ha ha, Lu Ming, I'll show you my current strength, boom. An incomparably shocking aura erupted from Yi Chu Tianji's body. This was the aura of the Divine Master Realm. It covered the sky and covered the earth as it pressed down on Lu Ming and Ling Yue. Divine Master Realm, not good. Lu Ming, run. Ling Yue's expression changed drastically. She didn't expect that Yi Chu Tianji had already broken through to the Divine Master Realm. It had only been a few years since the battle for the origin seed in the Taishang Immortal City. A few years was too short. To them, it was just a blink of an eye. Yi Chu Tianji had actually broken through. This kind of talent was indeed terrifying. Go, you want to leave now? It's too late. Lu Ming, kneel down. Yi Chu Tianji shouted as his figure burst out. From above, he pressed down on Lu Ming with his palm. He didn't want to kill Lu Ming so easily. He wanted to suppress Lu Ming, cripple Lu Ming's cultivation, and torture Lu Ming. Otherwise, how could he vent the resentment in his heart? Lu Ming, be careful. Ling Yue was shocked. She wanted to pull Lu Ming back, but she discovered that Lu Ming's body seemed to have taken root and did not move at all. Yue, watch me. Lu Ming's gentle voice rang out. Following that, Lu Ming punched out. When he punched out, the taboo energy in his body was completely mobilized and surged out along his fist. Boom! The fist and Yi Chu Tianji's palm collided, causing an earth-shattering explosion. Amidst the overflowing strength qi, Yi Chu Tianji's body explosively retreated several hundred miles. When he landed on the ground, he continued to retreat. The ground he stepped on rumbled and exploded, leaving behind a large crater. His body trembled as he spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was pale and his eyes were wide open as he stared at Lu Ming as if he had seen a ghost. Chapter 45:13. Yub, your cultivation, Divine Master, how did you reach the Divine Master realm? Yechu Tianji roared, his words incoherent, his voice full of disbelief. It had only been a few years, and Lu Ming had broken through to the Divine Master realm? The reason he could break through to the Divine Master realm was because he had already accumulated enough when he was in the Taishang Immortal City. After returning to the Heavenly Palace, he had spent a huge amount of resources to break through to the Divine Master realm in a few years. However, when Lu Ming was in the Taishang Immortal City, he had only just reached the 9th level of the Divine Lord realm. There was still a long way to go before he could reach the peak of the 9th level of the Divine Lord realm. He needed a long time to consolidate his foundation before he could break through to the Divine Lord realm. But now, Lu Ming was already a Divine Master. This made him feel incredulous. They were both at the 1st level of the Divine Master realm, but he was no match for Lu Ming, just like in the battle for the Origin Seed. Ling Yue was also in a daze. Obviously, she did not expect Lu Ming's cultivation to have reached the almighty level. Let's go. Yechu Tianji was very decisive. When he found out that Lu Ming had reached the Divine Master realm, he knew that he was no match for Lu Ming, so he turned around and ran. Yechu Tianji, didn't you want to kill me? Why are you running so fast now? Lu Ming sneered. His body turned into a ray of light, and in a flash, he approached Yechu Tianji. I'll fight it out with you. Yechu Tianji roared, and suddenly turned around. 3 kinds of heaven power exploded, and blasted toward Lu Ming. Battle Character Art. 8 times Fighting Strength. Lu Ming's heart moved, and the Battle Character Art successfully activated 8 times Fighting Strength, and he punched out. The space kept exploding, and the violent fist energy crushed out, once again colliding with Yechu Tianji's attack. Boom! Boom! After a few explosions, Yechu Tianji's body flew out like a cannonball, coughing up mouthfuls of blood. Cracks appeared on the bones of his arms, and they almost exploded. Dozens of other bones in his body were broken. Damn it, his combat strength. Yechu Tianji was incomparably terrified. He realized that Lu Ming was even more terrifying now. In a battle of the same level, he was even less of a match for Lu Ming. He was completely crushed. If they were in the highest immortal city, they might still be able to put up a fight. But now, there was no way they could put up a fight at all. Little did he know that Lu Ming's battle seal was still at the 7-fold stage when they were at the Grand Supreme Immortal City. Now, Lu Ming's battle character secret art had already multiplied his battle prowess by 8 times. In a battle of the same level, his battle prowess was naturally much stronger. Hurry up and leave. Send a message to His Excellency the Lord of Heaven. Tell him that Lu Ming has become a Divine Master and that he's in the elves' ancestral land. Tell them to invite the Celestial Venerables. Yechu Tianji roared at the others as he retreated. The other geniuses from the Heavenly Palace also fled in all directions. This was Yechu Tianji's strategy of creating a diversion. He asked the other geniuses to spread the news as they fled. He wanted to distract Lu Ming so that Lu Ming would chase after these people. Once the news about Lu Ming spread, the Heavenly Palace would definitely hunt him down. If he were Lu Ming, he would definitely divert his attention to chase after the others. In that case, he would have a chance to escape. Actually, he was right. Lu Ming indeed didn't want these people to spread the news about him. He was now a thorn in the side of the Heavenly Human Tribe. Once the Heavenly Human Tribe knew about this, they would definitely send Celestial Venerables to kill him. In order to kill him, the Heavenly Human Tribe would definitely be willing to send Celestial Venerables. But there was one thing that Yechu Tianji guessed wrong. Lu Ming didn't need to be too distracted to kill these people. Chaos style. Lu Ming shouted as his hands quickly formed seals. His body glowed as tens of thousands of secret techniques intertwined to form a continent. The continent was incredibly huge. With the support of the taboo energy, it continued to expand outwards. It almost covered a small portion of the 10th floor's space. The continent formed by the chaos style could be big or small. It was completely up to Lu Ming's will. If Lu Ming wanted, he could even make it 10 times bigger. But in that case, the power would be too scattered and the power would not be strong. The smaller the area, the more powerful it would be. However, Lu Ming didn't need too much power now. Because among the geniuses from the Heavenly Palace, except for Yechu Tianji, the others were not worth mentioning in front of Lu Ming. They were all characters that Lu Ming could kill with a flick of his finger. Rumble! The continent formed by the chaos style pressed down, causing heaven and earth to tremble. It enveloped all the geniuses from the Heavenly Palace. Ah! Attack, attack! Stop him! The geniuses from the Heavenly Palace roared. These people were all personal disciples of the big shots from the Heavenly Palace. They were all from different races. At this moment, they all transformed into their true forms and unleashed their strongest battle prowess, using their most powerful moves to attack the Your Wilds continent. Dozens of light pillars shot up into the sky and bombarded the chaos style. But it was useless. The moment they came into contact with the chaos style, the attacks collapsed. Boom! The huge continent smashed into the ground, trying to flatten everything. Bam! 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 The bodies of the geniuses from the Heavenly Palace kept exploding as they died. In the end, only Yechu Tianji was still alive. But he was also sent flying, drawing a ditch a few hundred miles in the ground. He spat out a mouthful of blood and his eyes were filled with shock. Lu Ming was too strong. This move was even more terrifying. He almost thought that he was going to be killed. Swoosh! Yechu Tianji reacted quickly. He slapped the ground and rushed out, continuing to escape into the distance. Yechu Tianji, since you're here today, don't think about leaving, Lu Ming said coldly. His body flashed a few times and caught up with Yechu Tianji. At the same time, another continent appeared above Yechu Tianji's head. It was still the chaos style. But now, Lu Ming had shrunk the size of the continent by a lot. The mountains and rivers of the continent could be vaguely seen, and its power was also much stronger. This time, the target was only Yechu Tianji. The continent's power was at its strongest with the size of the continent. Lu Ming wanted to kill Yechu Tianji once and for all. He did not want to waste any more time. Rumble! As the continent pressed down, heaven and earth trembled. The power was incomparably terrifying. Yechu Tianji's face was very serious. "Oh, Lu Ming, you can't kill me. You can't kill me. Come out, heavenly wolf armor." Yechu Tianji roared. The power of the heavens burned and exploded wildly. A battle armor appeared on the surface of his body. This battle armor emitted a terrifying aura. It was vast and unfathomable. Source-level divine weapon. Lu Ming's face changed slightly. He could tell at a glance that the battle armor that appeared on Yechu Tianji's body was a source-level divine weapon. He wanted to use this source-level divine weapon to block Lu Ming's attack. But there were many restrictions in the ancestral land of the elves. Divine weapons could not be used. Chapter 45:14. Yechu Tianji wanted to summon his source-level armor to block Lu Ming's attack. However, there were many restrictions in the elven ancestral land that prevented the use of weapons. Yechu Tianji desperately burned the power of the heavens to activate the source-level armor. However, in the next moment, a powerful force of restriction pressed down on Yechu Tianji's body. The source-level armor on his body trembled and its light dimmed. It shrank and returned to Yechu Tianji's body. Damn it! Yechu Tianji roared in his heart. However, Lu Ming's attack was about to reach him. "Lu Ming, I'll fight you to the death," Yechu Tianji roared, revealing a pained expression. Then, he roared and activated the Source Seed. He activated the Origin Source Seed and had it rush into the Source-grade Divine Armament battle armor. Buzz! The Source-level armor vibrated again and emitted a dazzling light. It appeared again and enveloped Yechu Tianji. Boom! The continent formed by the chaos style bombarded Yechu Tianji's body. Yechu Tianji's body flew out like a cannonball and smashed into the ground, creating a large crater. However, this time, Tianji immediately rushed out of the crater. His face was pale and blood was flowing from the corner of his mouth. However, his injuries were not serious. They were only light injuries. Most of the power of Lu Ming's attack had been absorbed by the source-level armor. He actually burned his source seed. He's really willing to. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. There were many restrictions here. Under normal circumstances, it would be difficult to activate the source-level armor. However, it was different if the source seed was burned. The source-level armor required the source energy to activate. The source energy was like a fuse that could ignite the power of the source-level armor. However, Tianji had only obtained the third rank in the battle for the source seed. The source seed he had condensed was not big and did not contain much source energy. It could not be used to deal with or activate the source-level armor. Therefore, Tianji decided to burn his entire source seed to activate the source-grade battle armor. Only then would he be able to activate the source-grade battle armor. However, after the origin seed was burned, it would completely disappear. The origin energy seed was a shortcut to reciprocity. Now that it had been burned by Tianji, he felt extremely pained. His hatred for Lu Ming increased by several dozen times. Lu Ming, you damned bastard. Just you wait. Just you wait for my crazy revenge. I will make you suffer a fate worse than death. Tianji's face was incomparably ferocious, filled with terrifying killing intent. He truly hated Lu Ming. He swore that in the future, he would definitely make Lu Ming suffer the greatest pain in the world. Boom! Lu Ming could not be bothered to pay attention to him. He used the desolation form again, slamming Tianji into the ground. However, Tianji charged out again and fled into the distance. As he fled, he roared, Lu Ming, I have the source-level armor protecting me. You can't kill me. Ha ha ha, you can't kill me. Just you wait for my revenge, ha ha ha. Tianji laughed madly. Lu Ming's eyes were cold. He said nothing. He secretly activated the source energy within the source energy and poured it into the war god's spear. Clang! As the source energy entered his body, the war god's spear seemed to awaken. It broke through the layers of restrictions and appeared in Lu Ming's hand. Swish! Lu Ming stabbed out, striking Tianji. However, Tianji's entire body was covered by the source-level armor. The spear only pierced the armor. The collision of the two weapons was extremely ear-piercing. This time, Tianji's body was sent flying tens of thousands of miles away. He coughed out mouthfuls of blood and there was a trace of fear in his eyes. This was because he discovered that a large part of the source-level armor had caved in. It was damaged. This was a source-level armor, but it was damaged. This was too terrifying. He originally thought that with the protection of the source-level armor, he could rest easy and escape from the elf race's ancestral land. But now, it seemed that this was not necessarily the case. Swish! Lu Ming's attacks did not stop. After the first stab, the second stab immediately followed. Tianji was shocked. He frantically retreated and flashed his body, trying to avoid Lu Ming's attack. However, he was overthinking. Lu Ming's speed was clearly far above his. In the end, Lu Ming's second spear hit Tianji. Moreover, it hit the same spot as the first spear. Tianji screamed as his body was sent flying tens of thousands of miles. When he looked down, he was scared out of his wits. That was because the dent on the soul-grade divine weapon battle armor had gotten even bigger. He could even see a small crack on it. Although it was very small, it was really a crack. The source-level armor was about to be pierced through. Tianji's heart was trembling. It was caused by fear. He knew that Lu Ming's source-level armor was of a higher level than his. Otherwise, it wouldn't be like this. Send a message, send a message. Tianji suddenly activated the illusory sacred jade and sent a message inside. Lu Ming is. Tianji shouted at the illusory sacred jade with his soul. However, just as he shouted a few words, Lu Ming's third stab arrived. This time, it hit the same spot as the previous two. Crack! The source-grade armor on Tianji's body made a cracking sound as cracks appeared on it. There was even a small hole in the center of the crater. The hole was very small, but a wisp of spear light still rushed in and stabbed Tianji. Tianji screamed as a large hole appeared in his body. However, Tianji was only severely injured. He wasn't dead yet. His eyes were filled with determination. He continued to shout, Lu Ming is in the elf race's ancestral land. Avenge me! After shouting with his soul, Yechu Tianji laughed. Lu Ming, I've already sent a message. Even if you kill me, you will die. You can't escape. Ha ha ha. Damn it! Lu Ming's face was gloomy. He had attacked continuously, but Yechu Tianji's source-level armor was too hard. Even with the sharpness of the battle god's spear, it couldn't be pierced with 1 or 2 stab attacks. This gave Yechu Tianji a chance to send a message. It took some time to send a message using the illusory sacred jade, but this time was very short. A slight delay and the message would spread. Now that the heavenly human race outside knew that he was inside, it wouldn't be so easy for him to escape. I'll send you on your way first, Lu Ming said coldly. He became one with his spear and turned into a dazzling spear light that pierced toward Yechu Tianji. Yechu Tianji naturally didn't want to be killed. He tried his best to dodge, but it was impossible for him to dodge Lu Ming's attack now that he was severely injured. Poof! The 4th stab hit the same spot as the previous 3. Chapter 45:15. But this time, Yechu Tianji's source-grade armor was pierced through and could no longer block Lu Ming's attack. Puff! The terrifying spear light pierced through Yechu Tianji's body and entered his body. Ah, Lu Ming, the heavenly palace won't let you go. Yechu Tianji let out a blood-curdling scream before his body was destroyed by the destructive power of the spear light. Even his soul was annihilated along with it. Yechu Tianji was dead. This time he was truly dead. There was no way he could come back to life. This former strongest heavenly emperor had just broken through to the divine master realm and was full of ambition. He wanted to take revenge on Lu Ming, but in the end, he lost his life in Lu Ming's hands. Only the source-grade armor was left floating in the air, its light dim. Lu Ming reached out and grabbed the source-level divine armor in his hand. What a pity! Lu Ming shook his head. The armor was damaged. If it was intact, it would be too useful. Lu Ming was very tempted by its defensive power. If it weren't for the fact that the war god's spear was a top-tier source-grade weapon, it would have been difficult to break through the armor. With such an armor, he could save his life at a critical moment. In the untainted universe, source-grade magic weapons were already extremely rare, let alone defense-type ones. Every single one of them was extremely rare. Every single one of them was a peerless treasure. Even reciprocity experts would put their lives on the line for a source-grade armor like this. It was too rare. This could be seen from the Life Spirit Heavenly Court's 18 Guardian Divine Weapons. The 18 Temple Garrison Divine Weapons were all offensive divine weapons. None of them were defensive divine weapons. It could be seen from this. But now that it was damaged, it wasn't very useful. I'll keep it first and see if I can find someone to repair it. If not, I'll just give it to Xueqi. Lu Ming pondered. Speaking of Xueqi, Lu Ming couldn't help but look at Xueqi on his wrist. In the Life Spirit Heavenly Court, Xueqi had swallowed a damaged source-grade weapon and reached the 9th layer of the Divine Master Realm. Later on, they stayed in the Creation Divine Formation for 300 years. During this time, Lu Ming gave the other damaged source-grade weapons and master-grade weapons to Xueqi. During that time, Xueqi had been digesting the damaged source-grade weapons and master-grade weapons. Lu Ming originally thought that with Xueqi's physique, he could quickly break through to the Divine Master Realm. But in reality, Xueqi was still at the 9th layer of the Divine Master Realm. Could it be that Xueqi had also encountered a bottleneck? Or did it not eat enough damaged source-grade weapons? During this period of time, Xueqi was in a deep sleep and focused on refining. Lu Ming did not ask about it. Lu Ming, what do we do now? Ling Yue flew over and asked. Yue, you enter my space first. I'll use the great imitation technique to test it out. Lu Ming said. You have to be careful. Yue nodded and entered the Chaos Ring. As for Lu Ming, he transformed into a young heavenly human. He was one of the people who had entered before. Then, he headed towards the exit of the first floor. At this moment, outside the elven ancestral land, there was an uproar. Several terrifying auras reverberated in the void, filled with terrifying pressure. Lu Ming is in the elven ancestral land. Damn it, Yechu Tianji is in danger. Yechu of Beak roared. The heavenly human race was also divided into many factions, most of which were divided by surname. Yechu Tianji was the strongest genius in the Yechu sect. His future was limitless. He had been nurtured by the Yechu sect with all their might, and who knew how many resources had been spent. However, from the news that Yechu Tianji had just sent out, he seemed to be in danger. Yechu Tianji has already broken through to the Divine Master Realm. Is he still not a match for Lu Ming? Yelling Flight said with a frown. That Lu Ming is too monstrous. He can't be measured by common sense. Maybe he has also broken through to the Divine Master Realm. Although it's inconceivable, we have to be prepared for it. Yechu of Beach said, the killing intent in his eyes growing stronger. How did Lu Ming get in? Could it be that he was already inside with the Elven Princess? Or did he sneak in with Yechu Tianji and the others? Yelling Flight said, it's hard to say. It's possible. Yechu of Beach said, if he really sneaked in with Yechu Tianji and the others, then this person's disguise technique is really amazing. He can even fool us. Maybe later, he will impersonate us and come out. Yelling Flight said, Brother Fidu and I have the same idea. Yechu of Beach nodded, then suddenly raised his voice and rang in everyone's ears. Listen up, whoever comes out of the Elven ancestral land, no matter who they are, don't let them go. Take them all and let us interrogate them. Yes. The others answered loudly. Lu Ming passed through the 9th floor, the 8th floor. Soon, he arrived at the entrance of the 1st floor. Looking at the entrance, Lu Ming frowned. For some reason, he felt that this trip would not be so easy. Since they had already received the news of Yechu Tianji, the people of the Heavenly Palace would definitely not let him go so easily. Perhaps, everyone who came out would be carefully examined. Lu Ming could use the great imitation technique to fool people like the Lord of Heaven, but that was because the other party did not check carefully. If they took him down and carefully examined him, they would definitely be able to find some clues. Not to mention anything else, they would be able to find out if he said a few words. He only imitated the other party's appearance and aura, but he did not know the other party's memories at all. But, no matter what, he had to give it a try. Lu Ming stepped out and entered the exit. The next moment, Lu Ming appeared in the hall outside. However, Lu Ming stood at the edge of the entrance and did not take a step forward. Instead, he looked around. Then, his heart skipped a beat. In the hall, there were many masters of the Heavenly Palace, who surrounded the exit so that not even a drop of water could pass through. At this time, these people's eyes fell on Lu Ming, and there was a trace of suspicion in their eyes. Yi Lingxian, so it's you? Why did you come out alone? Where are the others? A burly heavenly human tribeman asked. Only then did Lu Ming know that the heavenly human youth he had imitated was called Yi Lingxian. It's like this. I suddenly had a feeling that my realm might be showing signs of a breakthrough, so the emperor asked me to come out and return to the heavenly palace to cultivate in seclusion. Lu Ming said. This reason was actually very appropriate. Some people might feel an opportunity to break through at the last moment, so it was normal for them to go back and find a place to break through safely. If there was no news from Yechu Tianji, he would most likely be able to fool them and successfully leave here. However, these people were only half believing and half doubting. Their spiritual consciousness swept over Lu Ming's body and confirmed that the life origin aura was indeed Yi Lingxian. However, the Lord of Heaven had ordered that no matter who came out, they would be taken down. The Apex. Chapter 45:16. Alright, Yi Lingxian, come out first. Your breakthrough is more important. Hurry back to the heavenly palace. The middle-aged man from the heavenly human tribe said. His eyes flashed with a hint of urgency, and Lu Ming caught it clearly. Let me think about it. The journey back to the heavenly palace is too far. I'm afraid I won't make it in time. Everyone, how about this? Give me some pills, and I'll break through in the elf tribe's ancestral land. How about that? After saying that, Lu Ming moved slowly, as if he was going to re-enter the elf tribe's ancestral land. The surrounding people were a little anxious. Yi Lingxian, come out first. If you have any conditions, feel free to state them. The middle-aged man from the heavenly human tribe slowly approached Lu Ming. Looks like these people would rather kill 100 by mistake than let one person go. Lu Ming sighed in his heart. It was impossible to escape by pretending to be a member of the heavenly human tribe. Take him down. Suddenly, a loud roar came from outside the main hall. Then, a powerful force surged in and rushed toward Lu Ming, trying to suppress Lu Ming. This was the attack of someone on the level of the Lord of Heaven. Lu Ming did not hesitate. He burst out with energy and rushed into the vortex. In the next moment, Lu Ming appeared on the first level of the elf tribe's ancestral land. As soon as Lu Ming rushed into the vortex, Yechu of Beach rushed in with a gloomy face. That kid is Lu Ming. Don't even think about leaving. Yechu of Beach roared and rushed into the vortex. In the next moment, he also appeared on the first level of the elf tribe's ancestral land. Lu Ming was shocked when he saw Yechu of Beach. He quickly retreated. Lu Ming, where's Yechu Tianji? What did you do to him? Yechu of Beach roared and grabbed with his palm. A huge palm formed and pressed down on Lu Ming. Before the palm arrived, a terrifying force had already pressed down on Lu Ming. Bang! The ground beneath Lu Ming's feet directly exploded. The bones all over his body crackled and dozens of them broke. He wanted to retreat and dodge, but he couldn't do it at all. He was completely suppressed by this force and couldn't move at all. I'm in trouble. Lu Ming's expression was ugly. However, at this moment, emerald green rays of light suddenly appeared in the void. These rays of light appeared out of nowhere and surged towards Yechu of Beach's large hand like waves. King Yechu's roar shook violently. Then, cracks began to appear on the surface of the barrier like it was made of porcelain. Finally, with a bang, it exploded. Then, the emerald green light surged toward Yechu of Beach. Break! Yechu of Beach roared and a battle sword appeared in his hand. This was a master-level divine weapon. He roared and the supreme power of heaven erupted. He slashed with the sword with all his strength, trying to split the emerald green light apart. However, when the battle sword slashed into the emerald green light, it was like a stone sinking into the sea. It had no effect on the emerald green light at all. The emerald green light hit Yechu of Beach. His body shook violently and he couldn't help but step back and spit out a mouthful of blood. Old man of the elf tribe. Yechu of Beach roared. This was a restriction set up by the ancestors of the elf tribe. Once one's age exceeded the age limit, they would be suppressed by the restriction. Obviously, this restriction was very powerful. Even the existence of the Lord of Heaven couldn't resist it. Lu Ming, surrender obediently and I'll leave your corpse intact. Yechu of Beach roared, his eyes cold. That's what Yechu Tianji said to me in the past. Now I've killed him. Lu Ming said lightly. Yechu Tianji's origin-level divine weapon armor appeared in his hand. Moreover, he had also changed back to his original appearance. Since he had been guessed correctly, there was no need to hide it. You're courting death. Yechu of Beach roared. Looking at the origin-level divine weapon armor in Lu Ming's hand, his eyes were about to spit fire. The strong murderous intent almost materialized. The fact that the origin-level divine weapon armor was in Lu Ming's hand meant that Yechu Tianji was really dead. The strongest emperor, a peerless genius with a 12-star combat strength, was killed by Lu Ming just like that. This was a great loss for the heavenly human tribe. For the Yechu sect, it was an incalculable loss. His heart was bleeding. Oh, you want to kill me? Come on, I'm right here. Come and kill me. Lu Ming stretched out his arms as if waiting for Yechu of Beach to kill him. This made Yechu of Beach gnash his teeth in anger. He roared and wanted to kill Lu Ming, but when he was hit by the green light, he couldn't help but spit out blood and retreat. Now, the green light between heaven and earth was getting denser and denser. It gathered together and kept rushing toward Yechu of Beach. Puff, puff. Yechu of Beach spat out a few more mouthfuls of blood. His face was pale, and his injuries were quite serious. If this continued, he would be killed by the power of the restriction here. Lu Ming, you can't escape. The heavenly masters of the heavenly palace will soon come and break the restriction here. When that time comes, you will end up very miserable. I promise. Yechu of Beach roared and then quickly retreated out of the exit of the ancestral land of the elf tribe. Lu Ming's face became serious. The situation was indeed not good. The exit was blocked, and there was no way out. He could only stay in the ancestral land of the elf tribe. Once the heavenly masters of the heavenly palace came and broke the restriction of the ancestral land of the elf tribe, he would have nowhere to run. Let's try to send a message to Senior Fei Huang. Lu Ming took out the special voice transmission jade talisman of the Heaven Destroyer. However, it was useless. The message could not be sent out. It was blocked by the restriction here. It's really over. This restriction. Lu Ming had a love-hate relationship with the restriction of the ancestral land of the elf tribe. If it wasn't for this restriction, the people of the heavenly palace would have already killed their way in. However, The restriction now prevented him from sending a message. Without help, he would die sooner or later. Lu Ming tried a few more times, but it was useless. Then, he tried to go to the second level, but it was still useless. The restriction on the second level was stronger, and the message could not be sent out. Find Yue and ask for news. Lu Ming used his spiritual sense to explore the Great Desolate Ring and contacted Ling Yue. With a wave of his hand, Ling Yue appeared in front of him. Lu Ming, what kind of treasure is that? It's too magical. When Ling Yue saw Lu Ming, she said in shock. Right now, the elves in the Great Desolate Ring were all stunned. The continent inside the Great Desolate Ring was simply too big. Moreover, the cultivation environment was simply too good. It gave Ling Yue the feeling of being in the supreme immortal city. She had casually explored it just now and was stunned. This is called the Great Desolate Ring. It's the most precious treasure of the heavenly court. Lu Ming did not hide anything and said it directly. He did not want to hide anything from Ling Yue. Actually, there was no need to hide it. This was because there were many heavenly human races who had not died in the life spirit heavenly court. The upper echelons of the heavenly palace probably knew that he had obtained the Great Desolate Ring by now. It's actually the most precious treasure of the life spirit heavenly court. Ling Yue was also deeply shocked as she said, "Could it be that something happened to the life spirit heavenly court? My life spirit origin stone fragment from before flew away on its own." Lu Ming and Ling Yue had a simple conversation about the life spirit heavenly court. Ling Yue's life spirit origin stone fragment had indeed flown away on its own, but that was because the elf tribe had encountered a great calamity, so how could she have the mood to care about the life spirit origin stone fragment? Peak. Chapter 45:17. Lu Ming also briefly explained the matter of the life spirit heavenly court and asked, "Yue, are there any other exits in the ancestral land of the elves?" "No, what's wrong? You can't get out of the previous exit?" Ling Yue said, "I can't get out. The news has been spread." Lu Ming recounted what had happened before. Ling Yue's expression became serious again. After a long while, Ling Yue pulled Lu Ming's big hand and said, "Lu Ming, I've implicated you." "Silly girl, what are you talking about? I've implicated you all. Don't worry, even if I die, I will send you all out safely. Also, take this seed of the saint tree with you. If you can escape, you can plant it." Lu Ming took out the holy tree seed that he had left behind all those years ago and placed it in Ling Yue's hands. "Lu Ming," Ling Yue's eyes were slightly red as she said, "You can't die, I won't allow you to die. I want you to use your entire life to compensate me." "Ha ha ha, don't worry. I, Lu Ming, have lived for so many years. What kind of scene have I not seen? It won't be that easy for the heavenly palace to kill me." A cold light flashed across Lu Ming's eyes. Since there was no other way, he could only go all out. Lu Ming still had one more trump card, and that was the purple copper coffin. At this time, even if Lu Ming didn't want to open it, he had to. Taking advantage of the fact that the former Empyrean level expert had yet to arrive, Lu Ming planned to use the purple copper coffin to fight. Otherwise, when the Empyrean level expert arrived, even if he used the purple copper coffin, he might not be able to escape. Lu Ming let Ling Yue rush into the Great Desolate Ring, then summoned the purple copper coffin and walked towards the exit. Not long after, Lu Ming passed through the entrance and arrived at the Great Hall. Of course, Lu Ming was close to the whirlpool, ready to escape if the situation went wrong. "It's Lu Ming." The moment Lu Ming appeared, he was discovered. The people from the Heavenly Palace looked at Lu Ming in shock. They obviously did not expect Lu Ming to actually dare to come out. "The Lord of Heaven is not here." Lu Ming scanned with his spiritual sense and knew that the Lord of Heaven was not here. Lu Ming had already been discovered. The people from the Heavenly Palace had never thought that Lu Ming would dare to come out, so the Lord of Heaven was not guarding the Great Hall's palace. "Take him down." The people from the Heavenly Palace came to their senses. They roared and charged toward Lu Ming. All kinds of attacks also surged toward Lu Ming. "Go to hell." Lu Ming sneered. He grabbed the purple copper coffin with both hands and pushed it with all his might, trying to open the lid of the purple copper coffin. However, it did not budge. The lid of the purple copper coffin did not budge. Not even an inch. "What's going on?" Lu Ming was a little anxious. He pushed again, but it still did not budge. At this moment, The attacks from the Heavenly Palace experts were about to reach. There was no lack of terrifying experts among them. At this critical moment, Lu Ming could only place the purple copper coffin in front of him and retreat rapidly. Dang dang dang. Many attacks bombarded the purple copper coffin, causing violent vibrations. The powerful force made Lu Ming retreat even faster. He rushed directly into the whirlpool and disappeared. In the next moment, Lu Ming appeared on the first level of the elf ancestral land. The powerful force made him retreat continuously, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Lu Ming's face was a little pale. Although the purple copper coffin had blocked those attacks, he was still injured by the rebound force. However, Lu Ming's face was very ugly. He was more concerned about the purple copper coffin. Why couldn't the purple copper coffin open just now? Let's try again. Lu Ming continued to push the lid of the purple copper coffin, but it still did not budge. No matter what method Lu Ming used, he could not open it. Nest, you dropped the ball at this critical moment. Lu Ming really wanted to curse out loud. What's wrong with the purple copper coffin? What happened? Why can't I open it? It used to be easy to open. When Lu Ming first got the purple copper coffin, his cultivation was very low, but he could open it. Now that his cultivation had reached the almighty realm, he could not open it? What the hell happened? Could it be related to his past self? The last time he opened the purple copper coffin, his past self was sucked into the purple copper coffin. Lu Ming had never used the purple copper coffin again. Now, he could not open it when he took it out. The purple copper coffin could not be used. His strongest trump card was gone. How could he get out? Soon, Lu Ming returned to the first level and sat cross-legged. There was no other way. He could only take it one step at a time. Staying on the first level, Lu Ming observed the movements outside at all times. However, behind Lu Ming was the entrance to the second level. This was also to prevent accidents. If something went wrong, he could quickly rush to the second level. Lu Ming did not wait for long. 2 days later. Rumble. Heaven and earth began to shake violently. Following that, emerald green rays of light began to emanate from the ground and the void, rushing towards a certain direction. Edited by Lifer, Fingerfox, an expert has rushed in. Could it be a heavenly master? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Lu Ming guessed correctly. At this moment, the heavenly palace had indeed dispatched a lord of heaven. It was an old man, Ming Hua Tianzuan. After he arrived, he directly rushed into the ancestral land of the elf clan, which naturally triggered the attack of the ancestral land of the elf clan. On the first level, endless emerald green light rushed toward the heavenly masters of the heavenly human clan. However, Empyrean Ming Hua chopped down with his palm and split these multicolored lights apart. His gaze seemed to penetrate the void and fell on Lu Ming. Lu Ming, today you can't escape. Ming Hua Tianzuan spoke, and his voice instantly spread throughout the first level. He took a step forward and quickly closed the distance between him and Lu Ming. It's really a heavenly master. Retreat! Lu Ming was shocked. In a flash, he rushed into the entrance to the second level and then quickly flew toward the entrance to the third level. Not long after Lu Ming entered the second level, Ming Hua Tianzuan also arrived at the entrance just now. He stepped out and also entered the second level. As soon as he arrived at the second level, endless emerald green light appeared on the second level and rushed toward Ming Hua Tianzuan. Tens of thousands of rays of light gathered together and rushed out like a vast sea. Ming Hua Tianzuan's palm was still like a knife. With a slap, an incomparably huge sword light burst out from his palm and slashed toward the emerald green light. Rumble! Heaven and earth shook, and the emerald green light kept flickering. However, there were more rays of light rushing toward Ming Hua Tianzuan. The restrictive power of the second level was obviously much stronger than the first level. However, it still couldn't stop Ming Hua Tianzuan. His palm kept slashing down, breaking the rays of light and chasing after Lu Ming. Lu Ming was already familiar with the ancestral land of the elf clan. Soon, he arrived at the entrance to the third level and entered the third level. Then, he rushed to the fourth level without stopping. The second level didn't trap Ming Hua Tianzuan for long. Soon, he also arrived at the third level. The Apex. Chapter 45:18. The forbidden power of the third floor was even more terrifying. When Ming Hua Tianzuan set foot on the third floor, the emerald light that filled the sky rushed toward Ming Hua Tianzuan, wanting to drown him. Old fellows of the elven race, When they were alive, they had to bow and scrape before me. Now that they're dead, they still want to stop me? What a joke! Minghua Tianzuan said indifferently. Thousands of bolts of lightning erupted from his body. This was the power of heavenly punishment. The power of heavenly punishment at the level of a heavenly venerate was just too terrifying. Who knew how many bolts of pure white lightning erupted in an instant? Who knew if there were hundreds of thousands or millions of bolts of lightning? They filled the entire sky and collided with the emerald light. Rumble! The world shook violently. Space was torn apart and the ground constantly exploded. Huge craters appeared on the ground, as well as cracks that extended for hundreds of thousands of miles. The entire third floor seemed like it was about to be torn apart. Not only that, but it also affected the first and second floors. The worlds of the first and second levels trembled continuously. Cracks appeared on the ground, and the entire world became extremely unstable. Lu Ming's face was extremely solemn as he approached the entrance to the fourth floor from the third floor. A heavenly venerate was just too powerful. The restrictions of the elven ancestral land were most likely unable to stop them. After all, this was a living origin realm expert, while the ones who had set down the restrictions of the elven ancestral land were only origin realm experts who had already died. The difference in strength was a stark contrast. The elven ancestral land was naturally unable to stop a living heavenly venerate. The elven ancestral land is about to explode. Lu Ming's face was solemn as he charged into the entrance to the fourth floor without any hesitation. After arriving at the fourth floor, Lu Ming charged into the entrance to the fifth floor without any hesitation. The further he went, the stronger the restrictions became. Lu Ming hoped that the restrictions at the back would be able to stop them. Even if they couldn't, they could at least delay them for a while. The longer they delayed, the more likely variables would appear. Not long after Lu Ming arrived at the fourth floor, Minghua Tianzuan also arrived at the 10th floor. The restrictive power of the fourth floor was clearly stronger than that of the third floor. The emerald green light here was almost solid, turning into lines of runes that wrapped around Minghua Tianzuan. Slash! Minghua Tianzuan shouted. The power of heavenly punishment appeared in his right hand, and the power of heavenly punishment appeared in his left hand. The two supreme powers of heavens formed into two different swords. With a wave of his sword, boundless sword light burst out in all directions. The forbidden power of the elves' ancestral land was forcefully broken open. Terrifying sword marks appeared on the ground, almost splitting the entire fourth level. He strode forward, getting closer and closer to Lu Ming. Lu Ming also pushed his speed to the limit, flying rapidly. Just like this, the two of them, one chasing the other, arrived at the 5th floor, the 6th floor, the 7th floor. Not long after, Lu Ming arrived at the 9th floor. And Minghua Tianzuan also arrived at the 9th floor. The restrictive power of the 9th floor had almost reached its peak. Not only that, but the restrictive power of the first 8 floors also gathered at the 9th floor, turning into countless runes. These runes then condensed into incomparably huge arrows. Each of these arrows was as long as 100 miles, shooting toward Minghua Heavenly Empyrean. The elves' ancestral land only has 9 floors in total. Lu Ming, where do you think you can run to now? Minghua Tianzuan said indifferently. His voice spread far and wide, as if he was a cat catching a mouse. As he spoke, a battle sword appeared in his hand. This battle sword exuded a terrifying wave of energy. This was an source-level divine weapon. As a veteran celestial master of the Heavenly Palace, it was normal for him to have an source-level divine weapon. Clang! The source-level battle sword vibrated, making a loud sword sound. Sword chi soared into the sky, instantly triggering hundreds of millions of sword chi, colliding with the sky full of arrows. Rumble! The collision between the two sides destroyed heaven and earth, and the terrifying force swept in all directions. If this confrontation was in the universe, it would probably destroy a galaxy. The power was too strong, and the elves' ancestral land could not withstand such a terrifying collision. The space collapsed, the earth cracked, and the explosions continued. The first floor was the first to collapse. The restrictive power of the first floor was the weakest, and now that it gathered on the 9th floor to suppress Minghua Tianzuan, the restrictive power of the previous floors became even weaker. The protective power also became very weak, and could not withstand the terrifying aftermath at all. The earth of the first floor was completely torn apart, and the void was full of hideous cracks, looking incomparably terrifying. Then, a big explosion occurred. The first floor was constantly exploding and annihilating, and was sucked into the endless dark void. The first floor of the elves' ancestral land was destroyed. Then the second floor, the third floor. One floor after another exploded. The evil spirits in the stone towers were also reduced to ashes by the terrifying power and dissipated into thin air. Lu Ming saw this scene through the space crack. He gasped, and his heart was extremely heavy. Soon, Lu Ming came to the entrance to the 10th floor. Standing there, Lu Ming did not move, and he was not in a hurry to rush to the 10th floor. He wanted to observe the situation. At the same time, he took out the purple copper coffin again and wanted to open it, but it did not move at all. Slash, slash, slash. Minghua Tianzuan shouted, and his battle sword kept slashing out. However, the restrictive power of this floor was also incomparably strong. Most importantly, the restrictive power of the 10th floor was also activated, and it gathered together to suppress Minghua Tianzuan. For a moment, the two sides were in a deadlock, and Minghua Tianzuan could not rush over for a while. This made Minghua Tianzuan's eyes flashed with anger. He took action personally, but he could not take down Lu Ming in a short time, which made him extremely unhappy and felt that he had lost face. He roared angrily, constantly urging his power to resist the restrictive power of the elves' ancestral land. At this time, the restrictive power of the elves' ancestral land was also at its peak. Endless emerald light condensed into 3 huge figures. These were 3 elves, and their bodies were emitting endless light. Their appearances could not be seen clearly, but it could be felt that their auras were extremely terrifying. They were definitely top experts. Are these the 3 Origin Realm experts in the history of the elves? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. The restrictive power was at its peak, and 3 Origin Realm experts were condensed. They drew their bows at the same time and shot an arrow at Minghua Tianzuan. There were only 3 arrows, and they were not big, but Minghua Tianzuan's eyes were extremely solemn. 2 marks appeared between his eyebrows, as if they were resonating with the universe. At this moment, his power had become even stronger. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. He slashed out 3 sword lights with all his might, and they slashed at the 3 arrows. After 3 consecutive explosions, the 3 arrows were blocked. However, the sword light that Minghua Heavenly Venerate had unleashed also dissipated. Kill! Minghua Tianzuan roared, and his figure soared into the sky, killing one of the Origin Realm experts of the elves. Chapter 45:19. Minghua Tianzuan charged at one of the Origin Realm elves with all his might. He pushed his Origin Realm sword with all his might and destroyed the arrow of the Origin Realm elves with a single arrow. Then, he continued to slash out with his sword, trying to kill them one by one. However, these 3 Origin Realm elves were not real living beings. They were formed by the power of the restriction. They could be said to be one entity. Therefore, their cooperation was flawless. The 2 of them shot out 2 terrifying arrows that went straight for Minghua Tianzuan's forehead and dantian. For cultivators, the forehead and dantian were the most vital points. They were too fast, their timing was too accurate, and their power was too strong. Minghua Tianzuan did not dare to agree. He could only use all his strength to block. Naturally, he could not attack one of them. Just like that, the 2 sides went back and forth for more than 10 rounds, but it was difficult to determine a victor. The aftermath of the battle between the 2 sides caused severe damage to the ancestral land of the elves. At this moment, the first 6 floors had already exploded and disappeared. The 7th floor was also full of holes. On the 7th floor, many stone towers cracked and many evil spirits rushed out. This was the 7th floor. The evil spirits suppressed here were already extremely powerful. In particular, the evil spirits in each stone tower were even more powerful. They roared and flew around randomly. In the blink of an eye, Minghua Tianzuan and the 3 elves exchanged more than 10 rounds, but there was still no victor. Listen up. I'll block the power of the restriction of the elves' ancestral land. You guys go and suppress Lu Ming. Minghua Tianzuan shouted to the other experts of the Heavenly Palace. He was also afraid that things would change if he delayed. This was because during this period of time, Heaven Destroyer had sent out many experts to secretly hide in the various star regions of the elves to save some elves. During this period of time, the experts of the Heavenly Palace had fought with these people many times. If time continued to delay, he was afraid that the Origin Realm experts of Heaven Destroyer would come and save Lu Ming. Therefore, he blocked the power of the restriction with all his strength and let the others do the work. Go! Swish! Two figures pounced in Lu Ming's direction at high speed. They were Yechu of Beak and Yelling Flight, the two Lord of Heaven. Their reactions were the fastest, and their speed was also the fastest. The first 6 levels had already been destroyed, leaving behind only some wreckage. Of course, since they had just been destroyed, the entire place was still filled with destructive power, and the void was extremely chaotic. Of course, this wasn't a problem for the two Lord of Heaven level figures. They charged through and quickly arrived at the 7th floor. Roar, roar, roar. Jay. When the two of them arrived at the 7th floor, those evil spirits screamed and charged at them. Mere evil spirits, exterminate. Yechu of Beak and Yelling Flight shouted coldly. Their strongest heavenly power erupted, and their divine might was vast and mighty. Especially since they both controlled the power of heavenly punishment. Tens of thousands of thunderbolts pressed down, and those evil spirits were struck by the thunderbolts. Their bodies were directly annihilated and turned into ashes. Only those evil spirits guarding the tower were stronger. They blocked the thunderbolts' attack and weren't immediately annihilated, but their light dimmed and they were severely injured. The evil spirits on the 7th floor couldn't stop the two Lord of Heaven at all. They quickly broke through the encirclement and arrived at the 8th floor. The evil spirits on the 8th floor were even more powerful, especially those guarding the tower. They were extremely terrifying existences. When Lu Ming and the others came to the last few floors, they didn't dare to open the stone tower at all. In the face of those guarding the tower, even if they had the royal blood of the elves, it would be useless. This was because the evil spirits here were all suppressed by the elves when they were alive. They were extremely terrifying existences. After turning into evil spirits, their strength was still astonishing. A large group of evil spirits charged at Yechu of Beak and Yelling Flight, causing great trouble for them. That's right, evil spirits. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. The evil spirits here might be a great help to him. Many of the evil spirits in the evil spirit tower on the 9th floor had yet to be released. Lu Ming immediately contacted Ling Yue and asked her to lend him the holy tree seed. Ling Yue naturally wouldn't be unwilling in the slightest. Lu Ming held the holy tree seed and rushed towards a tall stone tower. After arriving at the bottom of the stone tower, Lu Ming directly opened the door of the stone tower. Then, he threw a punch into the stone tower, causing it to shake violently. Roar! A terrifying roar came from the stone tower. Following that, an incomparably powerful aura spread out. Lu Ming hurriedly retreated. Immediately, a terrifying evil spirit rushed out of the stone tower. This evil spirit's aura was incomparably powerful. Its gloomy and cold aura covered the sky and covered the earth, enveloping Lu Ming. Lu Ming shuddered. This evil spirit was absolutely terrifying. Its strength had probably reached the extremely high level of the Divine Master Realm. When it saw Lu Ming, it revealed a sinister expression and pounced towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming hurriedly raised the holy tree seed in his hand. The holy tree seed emitted a hazy light and a mysterious aura spread out. When the evil spirit sensed the aura of the holy tree seed, its body suddenly stopped. It looked at the holy tree seed with fear in its eyes. Slowly, the evil spirit roared a few times and retreated. Its gaze fell on Minghua Tianzuan, who was fighting with the 3 elves. It hesitated for a moment, as if it was very afraid. It didn't dare to rush over and could only pace around anxiously. How cowardly! Lu Ming disdained. However, although this evil spirit didn't dare to attack Minghua Tianzuan, it should be able to stop Yechu of Beak and Yelling Flight from behind. This wasn't bad either. Lu Ming pounced on the next stone pagoda and released the evil spirit in the stone pagoda. Little bastard! Minghua Tianzuan roared angrily and wanted to suppress Lu Ming with one palm. However, the 3 elves wouldn't let him succeed. They kept attacking Minghua Tianzuan, leaving him with no time to spare. Soon, Lu Ming opened more than a dozen stone towers on the 9th floor and released Lu Ming's pagoda guardian evil spirits. More than a dozen terrifying evil spirits, leading thousands of other evil spirits, were howling and roaring. It was extremely terrifying. When Yechu of Beak and Yelling Flight rushed to the 9th floor, these evil spirits immediately discovered them and rushed towards them. As for the other people from the Heavenly Palace, they could only watch from the outside. With their strength, not only would they not be of help, but they would also be killed by the evil spirits. The evil spirits on the 9th floor were extremely powerful. Yechu of Beak and Yelling Flight were blocked. The 2 of them rushed left and right, but they couldn't break out of the encirclement of the evil spirits. This made them extremely angry. They had clearly mobilized so many experts, but they still couldn't do anything to Lu Ming. Soon, more than 10 minutes passed. At this time, Lu Ming's face changed and became a little ugly. This was because he found that Minghua Tianzuan was gradually suppressing the three elves. The power of the seal is constantly weakening. Lu Ming's face was a little ugly. Yes, the power of the seal was constantly weakening. After all, the power of the seal was dead and limited. In the constant confrontation with Minghua Tianzuan, the power of the seal was constantly being consumed. Every time it was consumed, it would weaken a little. Minghua Tianzuan was in the origin realm, so his power could be said to be endless. Although it couldn't be said to be endless, it was more resistant than the power of the seal. Chapter 45-20. If this went on, the power of the restriction wouldn't be able to stop Minghua Tianzuan for long. Lu Ming, you're too naive to expect this mere restriction power to stop me. Let's see how you're going to stop me when the restriction power is depleted a little more. Minghua Tianzuan said coldly. Lu Ming didn't say anything. His expression was ugly. Indeed, when the restriction power couldn't stop the other party, he would have no way out. At this moment, he realized that Ling Yue was calling out to him. Yue, what's the matter? Lu Ming's spiritual sense communicated with Ling Yue through the great desolate ring. Lu Ming, there's another stone pagoda on the 10th floor of the ancestral grounds. There's an extremely terrifying evil spirit suppressed inside. You can release it to deal with the experts of the heavenly palace. Ling Yue said. The 10th floor also suppresses an evil spirit? Lu Ming was surprised. In his impression, the 10th floor was a wasteland. Back then, he had only discovered a holy seed mother tree and nothing else. That's right. Over the years, we've been constantly exploring the 10th floor. According to some ancient records, there is indeed an evil spirit on the 10th floor. It's extremely terrifying. It's very likely that it was an origin realm existence when it was alive. Ling Yue said. An existence of the origin realm. Lu Ming's heart trembled. It seemed that an extraordinary figure had appeared among the ancestors of the elves. He could even kill an existence of the origin realm. All right, tell me where it is. I'll go and release it. Lu Ming said. The more chaotic it was, the better. The more chaotic it was, the more chaotic it was. Only then would he have a chance to escape. Let me out, I'll go with you. That evil spirit is extremely terrifying. Even if you have the seed of the holy tree, you might not be able to intimidate it. You still need the power of my bloodline and the treasures of the elves on me to intimidate it. Ling Yue said. Lu Ming originally didn't want to let Ling Yue out, but what Ling Yue said made sense. If he let that terrifying evil spirit out, the seed of the holy tree wouldn't be able to intimidate it. Instead, he would be slapped to death by it. Lu Ming entered the 10th floor and released Ling Yue. Follow me, Ling Yue said, then rushed in a certain direction. Not long after, Lu Ming and Ling Yue arrived in front of a tall hill. This is the place where the evil spirits are suppressed? Lu Ming said. That's right, the stone pagoda is covered by mud. Ling Yue nodded. With a push of her palm, a powerful force surged forward. Ling Yue's meticulous control over her strength was like a cocoon, peeling off all the soil on the surface, leaving only a stone pagoda in front of Lu Ming and Ling Yue. This stone pagoda was different from the other stone pagodas. Around this stone pagoda, there were a few smaller stone pagodas. They were like guards, protecting the larger stone pagoda. In order to open the door to the large stone pagoda, one must destroy these small stone pagoda. These small stone pagoda have sealing power. Ling Yue said. All right, there's no time to lose. Let's go. Lu Ming said as he punched out, hitting a small stone pagoda. With a boom, the small stone pagoda shook violently, but only a small corner was broken. So hard. Lu Ming was surprised. These stone pagodas are made of special materials. Lu Ming, use your divine armament to bombard them. Ling Yue said. Lu Ming nodded. With a thought, the war god's spear appeared in his hand. Wang. The war god's spear trembled and pierced towards the small stone pagoda. With a boom, the small stone pagoda exploded. On the other side, a battle bow also appeared in Ling Yue's hand. Source-level divine armament. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. The source-level divine armament battle bow in Ling Yue's hand was not the one from before. The one from before was a blood-stained elven king bow. The blood-stained elven king bow should only be a main-level divine armament, but this one was a source-level divine armament. The elf clan has existed for countless years. In history there have been 3 origin realm experts. It's normal for them to have a source-level divine armament as their inheritance. Lu Ming pondered. Ling Yue shot out an arrow, and a careful stone pagoda was blasted apart. There were a total of 8 small stone pagodas. The 2 of them attacked consecutively, and very quickly, the 8 small stone pagodas exploded. Rumble! He didn't know if it was an illusion, but after the 8 small stone pagodas exploded, Lu Ming felt that the large stone pagoda trembled, as if the evil spirit inside had awakened. Lu Ming, be careful. Ling Yue whispered with a solemn expression. Lu Ming nodded. He did not approach the stone pagoda. Instead, he used his taboo energy to form a large hand and opened the door of the stone pagoda. As soon as the door opened, Lu Ming and Ling Yue's figures quickly retreated. This was because they could feel an extremely terrifying aura spreading out from within the door. It was like a tide that swept out in all directions. This aura was extremely cold and evil, as if it wanted to devour everything. Lu Ming grabbed the seed of the holy tree in his hand. Ling Yue stirred her blood, and the elven royal bloodline erupted with all its might. At the same time, the battle bow in her hand also emitted a dazzling light. Roar! An incomparably terrifying roar came from within the stone pagoda, and then an evil spirit crawled out. This evil spirit was like a lizard, but it had 9 heads and 3 tails. Its body was hundreds of meters long, and its 2 evil eyes stared at Lu Ming and Ling Yue. With a slight twist of its body, it arrived not far from the 2 of them. Lu Ming felt his body tense up, and cold sweat involuntarily appeared on the surface of his skin. This was a reaction that would only appear when facing a terrifying expert. Origin Realm. Lu Ming was sure that this evil spirit was extremely terrifying. It made Lu Ming feel as if he was facing an Origin Realm expert. This evil spirit's gaze moved back and forth between Lu Ming and Ling Yue. Of course, it was mainly looking at the seed of the holy tree in Lu Ming's hand and the battle bow in Ling Yue's hand. Lu Ming felt as if his heart was about to jump out of his throat. If this evil spirit attacked them, then they would really die. Fortunately, this evil spirit only glanced at them a few times before turning around and leaving. Its 9 heads roared, and the space was directly torn apart. It took a step forward and appeared on the 9th floor. Then, it pounced at Minghua Tianzuan. Its 9 huge mouths bit at Minghua Tianzuan. Mere evil spirit, purify for me. Minghua Tianzuan roared. Sword light erupted as he fought with the evil spirit. Boom! Boom! The 2 collided continuously, causing devastating attacks. Terrifying energy swept out in all directions, and the world on the 9th floor constantly exploded. Huge cracks continuously spread, even extending to the 10th floor. The 10th floor also shook violently, and huge cracks appeared on the ground. Now, the power of the restrictions in the elven ancestral land had weakened, and its defense had been greatly reduced. In a battle between Origin Realm experts, it could not be stabilized at all. The entire elven ancestral land was being torn apart and collapsing. Not good. Lu Ming and Ling Yue's expressions changed drastically as they quickly retreated. In the sky, there were a few huge cracks that spread towards them from afar. Chapter 45-21. Minghua Tianzuan and the evil spirit engaged in an intense battle. However, although the evil spirit was in existence at the Origin Realm when it was alive, after turning into an evil spirit, its strength had been affected and it was no longer at its peak. However, with the addition of the 3 elven experts formed by the power of the restrictions, they could still fight against Minghua Tianzuan. Slash, slash, slash. Minghua Tianzuan was furious. His long golden hair fluttered in the wind as the origin-grade battle sword in his hand moved unhindered. Sword chi after sword chi had the power to destroy the heavens and earth. Some of the sword chi was blocked by the evil spirit and the restrictions, but some of the sword chi directly slashed into the void in the ground. Boom! Boom! The void exploded and the ground sank. The first 8 levels of the world had completely exploded. The 9th and 10th levels were also constantly exploding. The world exploded, forming a destructive force that swept in all directions. Lu Ming and Ling Yue constantly flashed, dodging the chaotic flow of space. Yue, enter the chaos ring. Lu Ming waved his hand and a powerful suction force enveloped Ling Yue, sending her into the chaos ring. He quickly retreated, heading towards a place where there was no explosion. However, the area of the 10th level that was not destroyed was getting smaller and smaller, and the place he could stay was also getting smaller and smaller. Suddenly, Lu Ming felt a terrifying killing intent envelop him, causing the hairs on his body to stand on end. Lu Ming scanned with his spiritual sense and his expression changed drastically. It was Yechu of Beach. He had actually broken through the evil spirit's defense and was rushing towards Lu Ming. His eyes were cold and filled with ferocious killing intent. The strength of a Lord of Heaven was too strong. The chaotic void turbulence and the chaotic destructive power did not affect him at all. The supreme power of heaven burst out and rushed through. The only thing he had to pay attention to was the aftermath of the battle between Minghua Tianzuan and the evil spirit. As long as he avoided these aftershocks, he would be fine. Ha ha ha, Lu Ming. Let's see where you can run to now. Yechu of Beach sneered, his face incomparably malevolent. Yechu of Beach's killing intent soared to the extreme as soon as he thought about how Lu Ming had killed Yichu Tianji. Soon, Yechu of Beach was about to reach the 10th floor. Unfortunately, I'll have to disappoint you. Lu Ming's indifferent voice rang out. He glanced disdainfully at Yechu of Beach before charging into a large spatial crack. The spatial rifts here were different from the spatial rifts in the universe. This was because the elven ancestral land was being destroyed and exploding. The spatial cracks here were extremely chaotic and filled with terrifying destructive power. It was extremely dangerous. Even if an ordinary divine lord rushed in, they would be torn to pieces. Do you want to die? Yechu of Beach roared and rushed into the 10th floor at an extremely fast speed. However, Lu Ming was already nowhere to be seen. He was furious and rushed into the spatial crack as well. In the huge space crack, there was a chaotic and destructive force everywhere, constantly rushing toward him. He activated the power of heaven to block it and scanned his surroundings. However, all he could see was boundless darkness and he had lost track of Lu Ming. Damn it, Yechu of Beach roared. His supreme power of heaven erupted and broke through the chaotic destructive power. He rushed in a direction, but he still couldn't find any trace of Lu Ming. He changed his direction again, but he still couldn't find him. In the pitch-black chaotic void, he couldn't tell his direction or position. It was as if even time had stopped. Yechu of Beach continued to look in several directions, but he still couldn't find Lu Ming. He had no choice but to retreat. Where's Lu Ming? Minghua Tianzuan shouted when he saw Yechu of Beach come out alone. Yechu of Beach's face turned ugly. He said, Sky Sovereign, Lu Ming. Lu Ming is missing. Missing? You piece of trash. Minghua Tianzuan roared. He wanted to go and find Lu Ming personally, but he was entangled by the evil spirit and the restrictive power. He couldn't rush over at all. Send someone to seal off the surrounding space immediately. Once you find Lu Ming, send me a message immediately. Minghua Tianzuan shouted. Yes. Yechu of Beach and the others quickly received the order and sent someone to seal off the surrounding space. If Lu Ming was fine, he would probably appear in the nearby space. According to Yechu of Beach's conjecture, Lu Ming was most likely dead. This was because he knew how terrifying the chaotic destructive power was. Anyone below the 7th tier of the Divine Master Realm would probably die if they entered. However, Lu Ming had a taboo body and possessed great fortune. They had to treat him with caution. Lu Ming was currently in a miserable state. The chaotic destructive power of the void was too powerful. Although it couldn't do anything to Yechu of Beach, the difference in cultivation base between him and Yechu of Beach was too great. The chaotic destructive power was a fatal threat to him. The moment he charged into the dark void, the chaotic destructive power kept attacking him. The secret art he used to protect himself was instantly torn apart. The terrifying power slammed into Lu Ming's body. Waves of piercing pain spread throughout his body. His skin was torn apart, and his muscles were torn apart. Finally, his bones and internal organs were torn apart and destroyed by the chaotic power of destruction. Charge! Charge! Lu Ming used all his strength to open a path with the war god's spear. He chose a direction and charged forward. However, the destructive power around him kept surging toward him. As the destruction on the 10th level became more and more intense, the destructive power it produced also became stronger and stronger. Puff! Puff! Lu Ming's muscles were torn apart and then turned into powder that dissipated in the air. It looked too wretched. Soon, Lu Ming was covered in blood. Bam! Then, one of Lu Ming's legs exploded, followed by his arm, and then his body. Lu Ming's body was constantly being destroyed. In the end, he could only use his mind to control the war god's spear and continue charging forward. Finally, Lu Ming broke through the encirclement of the chaotic destructive power and came to a calm dark void. However, Lu Ming was also severely injured. His body was in tatters, and even his consciousness was a little blurry. His vision turned black, and he couldn't even lift his eyelids. I can't faint. I have to hold on. Lu Ming roared in his heart. He used his remaining strength and flew forward, disappearing into the dark void. When Yechu of Beeksh chased after him, Lu Ming had already broken through the chaotic destructive area. Lu Ming felt that he had spent a long time, but in fact, only a few breaths had passed. After flying for a distance, Lu Ming's consciousness became more and more blurry. Finally, he couldn't take it anymore and fainted completely. His body also floated in the eternal dark void, drifting to an unknown direction. After a long time, Lu Ming woke up in a daze. I'm still in the dark void. How long have I been unconscious? Lu Ming whispered and then checked his condition. His body had already recovered to its original state. His physique was too strong. As long as a single cell survived, his body could be regenerated. Evidently, his body had repaired itself while he was unconscious. Chapter 45-22. When he was in a coma, his cells would recover automatically. When he woke up, his body had completely recovered. However, his aura was still weak. His cultivation was far from recovered. Lu Ming immediately took out a pile of divine elixirs from his storage ring and swallowed them all. He refined the elixirs and recovered his cultivation. About half a day later, Lu Ming had recovered to his peak state. This time it was really close. Lu Ming exhaled. Fortunately, he was decisive enough at the critical moment and directly charged into the spatial rift to escape. Fortunately, his life force was tenacious enough and he managed to survive by the skin of his teeth. Let's go. With a thought, Lu Ming tore the void with both hands. The void was directly torn open, and bits of starlight sprinkled in. It seems that I am still somewhere in the starry sky of the primitive universe. Lu Ming smiled faintly and took a step forward. He left the dark void and returned to the primitive universe. Looking up, he saw stars embedded in the starry sky. Not far away, a huge star was burning fiercely. Where am I? Which starry sky am I in? Let's go and find out. Lu Ming thought for a while. Then, he randomly chose a direction and flew forward. As he flew, his appearance and aura of the origin of life rapidly changed, turning him into a young devil wreathed in dense devil chi. His current speed was so fast that he could cross a starry sky with one step. Lu Ming left him in the dust. Soon, Lu Ming arrived on a huge planet with life. With his status as a demon, others would treat him with respect. It was very easy for him to find out the information he wanted. The Flying Cloud Star Area Group. I can't believe I am in such a remote place. It seems that I have been drifting in the dark void for a long time. Lu Ming was a little surprised. The Flying Cloud Star Area Group was very far away from the starry sky where the elves lived. This place was closer to the Taishu dynasty. It was a very remote place in the primitive universe. Lu Ming had actually drifted all the way here in the dark void. One could imagine that he had been unconscious for a long time. I never expected that I would come here. It's just nice. I was planning to return to the Taishu dynasty and bring my parents, the divine wilderness, Qi and company to the universe ruins. It saved me a lot of time. Lu Ming smiled. Now that he had a treasure like the Chaos Ring, he had long wanted to go to the Taishu dynasty and bring his family and friends to the ruins of the universe through the Chaos Ring. After all, Lu Ming was only at ease in the ruins of the universe. In the Taishu dynasty, Lu Ming was always worried. It would be troublesome if someone from the heavenly palace found them. Without hesitation, Lu Ming took a nearby wormhole and headed toward the Taishu dynasty. 2 days later, Lu Ming arrived at the Sacred Fire Saber Sect. The Sacred Fire Saber Sect was barely a universe-level force. It had a divine emperor and was the closest universe-level force to the Taishu dynasty. When Lu Ming came out of the Taishu dynasty, the first place he went to was also the Sacred Fire Saber Sect. After arriving here, Lu Ming tore the void and rushed toward the Taishu dynasty. Although the Sacred Fire Saber sect was still very far away from the Taishu Sacred Dynasty, given Lu Ming's current cultivation level, it only took him 10 minutes to traverse the vast starry sky and reach the core of the Taishu Sacred Dynasty, the Taishu Sacred Capital. I'm finally back. Looking at the ancient city floating in the air in front of him, which was the Taishu Holy Capital, Lu Ming sighed with emotion. It had been 1,000 years since he left. 1,000 years had passed in the blink of an eye. Of course, Lu Ming was no longer the Lu Ming of the past. When he left the Taishu dynasty, Lu Ming's cultivation had just broken through to the Divine Emperor realm. Now, he had reached the Divine Master realm. In between, he had crossed the 3 major realms of Divine Emperor, and Divine Emperor. To cross 3 major realms in 1,000 years, this kind of cultivation speed was enough to scare people to death. Back then, he was inconspicuous in the vast chaotic universe. Any one of the major forces in the chaotic universe could suppress him. Now, he was famous in the chaotic universe and had become a top expert in the chaotic universe. Time could change a lot, and it could also make people grow. I wonder how my old friends are doing now? Shen Huang, Qi Xiang Xiang, and Emoli. How are their cultivation levels? But they should be in the Hidden Dragon Heavenly King residence. I'll go to the Holy Capital first and see if Lan Shu and the rest are willing to go to the Universe Ruins with me. It won't be too late to go to the Hidden Dragon Heavenly King residence then. Lu Ming smiled and walked towards the Great Illusionary Holy Capital. When he was close to the Great Illusionary Holy Capital, Lu Ming released his spiritual senses and covered the entire Great Illusionary Holy Capital. He was looking for the Blue Merchant. With Lu Ming's current cultivation level, it was easy for him to cover the entire Great Illusionary Holy Capital with his spiritual senses. He could see clearly what everyone was doing in the Great Illusionary Holy Capital. Moreover, no one could discover him. Found him. Lu Ming smiled faintly. With a flash of his figure, he disappeared from the spot. After Lu Ming disappeared, more than 10 figures flew out of the Taishu dynasty's city walls and came to the place where Lu Ming had been. Where is he? Why did he disappear? He was too fast. I couldn't see how he left. He must be a top expert. Did you notice that the person looked very similar to the Hidden Dragon Heavenly King? I noticed it too. Could it really be the Hidden Dragon Heavenly King? He's back. That's possible. The Hidden Dragon Heavenly King has been gone for more than 1,000 years. It's normal for him to come back and take a look. Quick, let's report this to the Saint King. These people did not dare to delay and rushed into the Great Illusionary Holy Capital to report to the new Saint King, Jingma, and the old Queen, Kong Shixue. In the Great Illusionary Holy Capital, in a huge garden, the Blue Merchant was holding a water bottle and watering the flowers. The Blue Merchant's cultivation level had been destroyed and he had focused on cultivating spiritual powers. Soul power and cultivating God power were poles apart. These years, Shi Yan had been cultivating his mind and temperament, growing flowers and grasses. His soul power had improved even faster. Lan Shu, you're in a good mood. All of a sudden, a clear voice rang out. At first, the Blue Merchant was shocked. Someone had appeared behind him and he had not sensed it. His spiritual powers were very strong and his spiritual senses were very sharp. In the Taishu dynasty, the Barbarian tribe, and the Tiani Sacred dynasty, only the Undying Demon Lord could do this. However, judging from the voice, it was not the Undying Demon Lord. Why does this voice sound so familiar? Lu Ming. The Blue Merchant immediately thought of Lu Ming. His eyes lit up and he quickly turned around. If the young man standing behind him was not Lu Ming, who else could it be? Speaking of which, Lu Ming's current body was different from before. Regardless of whether it was his appearance or life origin aura, they were all different. If it was his original appearance and life origin aura, the Blue Merchant would not have recognized him. However, before Lu Ming came, he had used the great imitation skill to change his appearance and life origin aura to be exactly the same as Lu Ming's. The Peak. Chapter 45-23. Lu Ming, you're back. Blue Merchant was pleasantly surprised to see Lu Ming. Lan Shu, it's been 1,000 years. Lan Shu's cultivation has become more profound. Lu Ming said with a smile. Lan Shang specialized in cultivating his soul power. Lu Ming discovered that Lan Shang's soul power was already very profound. It had reached the peak of a Lord God and his soul power was surging. Of course, in Lu Ming's eyes, there was nowhere to hide. Lu Ming could see everything clearly. Blue Merchant had obtained the soul cultivation crystal and had made great progress over the years. Lu Ming, your cultivation has also made great progress. I can't see through your cultivation. Have you broken through the peak of the Divine Emperor realm and reached the Divine Emperor realm? Blue Merchant said. After saying that, he was shocked. He clearly remembered that when Lu Ming left back then, his cultivation level had just broken through to the Lord God level. Within a short span of 1,000 years, Lu Ming was able to cross a huge realm, break through the limit of the Lord God level, and become a God Emperor? This was too shocking. After all, 1,000 years was too short. The Taishu dynasty, the barbarian tribe and the Qianni sacred dynasty had not had anyone reach the Divine Emperor realm for countless years. Only the undying demon lord who had reached the Divine Emperor realm a few dozen years ago. If it were someone else, he would find it hard to believe. However, Lu Ming gave him the feeling that he was a bottomless pit, unfathomable. You can say that, Lu Ming said with a smile. He did not tell Blue Merchant his current cultivation level. Lu Ming, you've really reached the Divine Emperor realm? Why don't we exchange a few blows? Lan Shangdao's interest was piqued. This, Lu Ming wanted to refuse because there was no need to exchange blows. The gap was too big. He was afraid of hurting Blue Merchant. Someone's coming. Suddenly, Lu Ming looked in a direction. There were a few figures walking in the air at an extremely fast speed. Heavenly King Hidden Dragon. It's really you. A pleasant voice was heard. It was Kong Shixue. Next to her was the current Divine Emperor, Jingma. This young man looked almost the same as Jingyu. Behind Jingma and Kong Shixue were a few important officials of the Taishu dynasty. Your Majesty, Your Highness. Lu Ming casually cupped his fists. In fact, with his current cultivation, there was no need to bow to greet them. But he was an old acquaintance of Heavenly King Hidden Dragon. He was just a casual greeting. Anyway, he was not the kind of person who was particular about it. I knew it. When Heavenly King Hidden Dragon returns, he will definitely come here, Jingma said with a smile. After the battle between the Taishu dynasty, the barbarian tribe, and the Qianni sacred dynasty, the Taishu dynasty established a new structure. Lu Ming was given the title of Heavenly King Hidden Dragon. The Heavenly King Hidden Dragon residence occupied half of the Taishu dynasty. As for Lan Shang, he was the imperial advisor. Heavenly King Hidden Dragon is back. You must be tired from the long journey. Let's set up a banquet to welcome you back, Kong Shixue said. Lu Ming didn't refuse. Lu Ming, Blue Merchant, and Kong Shixue came to a hall. A banquet was already set up in the hall. As soon as Lu Ming, Blue Merchant, and the others arrived, a few people hurried over. Ha ha ha, Lu Ming, you're back. A laugh came from outside the hall. Then, a tall and burly figure stepped out. Etian. Lu Ming smiled. It was Etian, the leader of the 3 generals under Jing Yu. Now, he was in charge of all the troops of the Taishu dynasty. Heavenly King Qianxing came with Etian. Greetings, Heavenly King Qianxing. Lu Ming bowed solemnly. When he was in the Taishu dynasty, Heavenly King Qianxing had helped him a lot. Without Heavenly King Qianxing's help, Lu Ming wouldn't be who he was today. Lu Ming respected Heavenly King Qianxing from the bottom of his heart. No matter how high his cultivation level was, this respect would never change. It's good that you're back. Heavenly King Qianxing was full of smiles. At this time, a strong pressure came from outside. Then, a burly figure stepped in. Undying Demon King. Lu Ming didn't need to look to know that it was Undying Demon King. Undying Demon King walked in with his hands behind his back. He didn't even look at Jingma, Kong Shixue, and the others. His eyes fell on Lu Ming. Lu Ming, you're finally back. Undying Demon King grinned. His eyes shone brightly. His aura was so strong that it filled the hall with a strong pressure. Demon King, you're here too? That's great. Please take a seat, Kong Shixue said quickly. She was in awe of Undying Demon King. It couldn't be helped. Undying Demon King was invincible in the Taishu dynasty, the barbarian tribe, and the Qianni sacred dynasty. When they faced Undying Demon King, they had to be careful not to offend him. I've been out for a long time. Of course, I want to come back and see my old friend. Lu Ming smiled and didn't care. He realized that Undying Demon King's cultivation level had been fully restored. In other words, Undying Demon King's cultivation level had reached the Divine Emperor realm. However, would Lu Ming care about a Divine Emperor realm expert? Come, everyone, please take a seat, Jingma said quickly. Although he was the Great Void's sacred emperor, he didn't have any loyal experts around him. To put it bluntly, he couldn't afford to offend anyone here. The Undying Demon King smiled and sat down with big strides, not bothering to be polite. Then, Lu Ming, Blue Merchant, Etion, and the others took their seats. Naturally, someone came up to pour wine for them. Lu Ming, where have you been in the past 1,000 years? How is it? Are there many experts out there? Undying Demon King spoke first. Yes, there are indeed many experts out there. Lu Ming nodded. You must have made great progress over the years. I can't see through your cultivation level. Have you broken through to the Divine Emperor realm? Undying Demon King said. To be honest, he was shocked. When he came in, he stared at Lu Ming carefully. He realized that he couldn't see through Lu Ming's cultivation level, which shocked him. Back then, Guo had placed a seal on him and he didn't dare to resist Lu Ming. However, now that his cultivation level had been restored to the Divine Emperor realm, he had changed his mind. The Divine Emperor realm was much stronger than the Divine Emperor realm. He wanted to suppress Lu Ming and force Lu Ming to remove the seal on him. However, when he realized that he couldn't see through Lu Ming's cultivation level, he was afraid and temporarily suppressed the idea of attacking. Divine Emperor realm? Hearing Undying Demon King's words, Etion, Holy Thousand King, Jingma, and Kong Shishue were shocked and looked at Lu Ming in shock. Could it be that Lu Ming had really reached the Divine Emperor realm? This was too shocking. Their thoughts were similar to Blue Merchant's. It was terrifying to step into the Divine Emperor realm in 1,000 years. For them, the Divine Emperor realm was the synonym of invincibility. You can say that. Lu Ming smiled. It was the same answer that he had given Lan Shang previously. It was still the same sentence. He was afraid that if he said it out loud, it would scare everyone present. You can say that? Undying Demon King was puzzled. The Summit. Chapter 45-24. The Undying Demon King was puzzled. Sort of. What did that mean? Did he reach it or not? In 1,000 years, he broke through to the Divine Emperor realm from the Divine Lord realm. This is unbelievable. Could it be that Lu Ming did not break through to the Divine Emperor realm and was just bluffing? But his aura is unfathomable. Even I can't see through it. Could it be fake? Could it be that he has cultivated some kind of secret technique that can change his aura? That's why I can't see through it? The unkillable Demon King stared at Lu Ming, pondering constantly in his heart. Undying Demon King, why are you looking at me like that? Is there something on my face? Lu Ming said indifferently. Haha, you're really a young hero. Lu Ming, I knew that you're not an ordinary person. You've reached the Divine Emperor realm in such a short time. Coincidentally, my cultivation has also recovered to the Divine Emperor realm. Why don't we have a fight? The Undying Demon King laughed and stood up. His body was surrounded by demonic light and his aura was imposing. Since he couldn't figure out Lu Ming's cultivation, he might as well try to see what Lu Ming's cultivation was. Anyway, it was just a fight. If Lu Ming really reached the Divine Emperor realm, he would still have room to retreat. Undying Demon King, do you really want to have a fight with me? Lu Ming said indifferently. He glanced at the Undying Demon King and a ray of light flashed in his eyes. A faint killing intent flashed in his eyes. At this moment, the Undying Demon King's body suddenly stiffened. His muscles trembled involuntarily and his skin broke out in cold sweat. A chill ran from the bottom of his feet to the top of his head. At this moment, Lu Ming seemed to have become an incomparably terrifying beast in his eyes and he seemed to have become an ant. The ferocious beast was glaring at him like a tiger eyeing its prey, as if it could blow him to death with a casual breath. Terrifying, terrifying, terrifying. Undefeatable, undefeatable, undefeatable. The Undying Demon King roared in his heart. His face was covered in cold sweat. He had a feeling that he was nothing more than an ant in front of Lu Ming. If Lu Ming wanted to kill him, he could do it with just a thought. In his heart, he was deeply shocked, incomparably shocked, and incomparably incredulous. Lu Ming's killing intent was only directed at the Undying Demon King. The others didn't feel it, and it only lasted for a moment before it was withdrawn. Plop! The undying Demon King felt his legs go soft. He couldn't even stand properly and sat down on the chair. He found that his whole body was drenched in cold sweat. He's definitely a cultivator of the godly emperor layer. He's not just a cultivator of the first godly emperor layer. He's probably already a cultivator of the third godly emperor layer. How did he practice cultivation? It's too terrifying. Undying Demon King roared in his heart. He was sure that Lu Ming had broken through to the godly emperor layer and was much stronger than him. He had probably broken through to the third godly emperor layer. He was incomparably shocked. This cultivation speed was too terrifying. Undying Demon King, didn't you want to spar? Why are you sitting down? Lu Ming said indifferently. Ha ha ha, I was joking. No, I was just joking. Don't be impulsive, young man, don't be impulsive. The Undying Demon King laughed guiltily, but his smile was uglier than crying. Blue Merchant, Holy Heavenly King, Tian, Kong Shishue, Jingma and the others looked at Lu Ming and the Undying Demon King suspiciously and astonishingly. They knew the Undying Demon King very well. He was an extremely overbearing and meticulous person. He had just proposed to spar with Lu Ming, so he wouldn't cancel it for no reason. Besides, he was covered in cold sweat and looked like he was about to die. Was he afraid of Lu Ming? Lu Ming was shocked. How powerful was Lu Ming now that he could make the unkillable Demon King, the old demon, so afraid of him without batting an eyelid? They were imagining things. Lu Ming, you're going to stay for a while this time, right? Thousand Holy Old Heavenly King asked after a long while. No, I'll be leaving soon. The main reason I came back this time is to take my parents away from here and cultivate elsewhere. Lu Ming said. Cultivate somewhere else? Is it a higher level place with a better cultivation environment? Blue Merchant and Holy Heavenly King asked quickly. Yes, if you're willing, you can come with me. Lu Ming said. As far as I know, places with better cultivation environments are usually occupied by powerful forces of the universe. It's very dangerous for powerful races to occupy a place. The Undying Demon King said. He was a divine emperor and had gone out to explore in the past. He knew a little about the outside world. Don't worry, I've got a firm foothold now. There won't be any danger. Moreover, the cultivation environment there is 100 times better than the Taishu dynasty, Lu Ming said. What? The cultivation environment there is 100 times better than the Taishu dynasty? The Undying Demon King, Holy Heavenly King, Blue Merchant and the others all widened their eyes in shock. 100 times better than the Taishu dynasty. What kind of cultivation environment is that? At the same time, they were very tempted. For example, the Undying Demon King, Holy Heavenly King, Tian and Blue Merchant's cultivation had reached a bottleneck. It was too difficult for them to break through. Blue Merchant was better. He still had potential. With the soul cultivating crystal, he might be able to break through to the Divine Emperor realm in the future. However, it was almost impossible for the Undying Demon King, Holy Heavenly King and Tian to break through. But they didn't have the courage to leave and go to a more advanced place. If what Lu Ming said was true, that the cultivation environment there was 100 times better than the Taishu dynasty, they really had a chance to break through the bottleneck and take another step forward. Especially Holy Heavenly King and Tian, who were both at the Quasi-Emperor realm. If they were one step closer to the Divine Emperor realm, their lifespan would skyrocket. Lu Ming, I'll go with you. Anyway, I'm old and don't have much time left. It's good to go with you. Holy Heavenly King was the first to speak. Lan Shang and Tian were hesitant. They were the Grand Master of the Taishu dynasty and the commander of the Taishu dynasty's army. They were in a high position and were reluctant to give up. In addition, Jingma and Kong Shishue didn't speak. The two of them definitely wouldn't leave. If they left, wouldn't the Taishu dynasty be handed over to others? Lu Ming, I'll go with you too. The Undying Demon King thought for a moment and gritted his teeth. All right. Lu Ming nodded. His eyes fell on Blue Merchant and Tian. He said, Are you willing to go with me? I won't force you, but I can guarantee that if you go with me, breaking through to the Divine Emperor realm won't be a problem. When Lu Ming spoke, he revealed strong confidence as if there would be no problem. This made Tian and Blue Merchant excited. All right, I'll go with you. Blue Merchant said. Lu Ming, I'll go with you too. A cultivator should focus on cultivation. I was almost delayed by mundane matters. Tian nodded. Chapter 45-25. The temptation of breaking through to the Divine Emperor realm was too great. In the end, Blue Merchant and Etion decided to give up their power and follow Lu Ming. That hidden dragon Heavenly King. Kong Shishue opened her mouth, looking like she wanted to say something but hesitated. Are you afraid that if Lan Shu and the others follow me, the Taishu dynasty will be empty without any experts? Lu Ming smiled and saw through Kong Shishue's thoughts. Kong Shishue and Jingma nodded repeatedly. In the Taishu Holy Dynasty, the barbarian tribe, and the Tianyi Holy Dynasty, the quasi-emperors were the most powerful cultivators. They were the cornerstones of a country. Now, there were too few cultivators in the Taishu Holy Dynasty. There was only Blue Merchant, Etion, Holy Old Heavenly King, and the Undying Demon Lord. Although 1,000 years had passed, there was still no new quasi-emperor in the Taishu Dynasty. Once these people left with Lu Ming, the strength of the Taishu dynasty would weaken rapidly. In the future, it would be annexed by the barbarian tribe and the Tianyi sacred dynasty. Therefore, Jingma and Kong Shishue were very worried. Don't worry, I have my own plans for this matter, Lu Ming said. With a wave of his hand, 8 wild beasts appeared in the hall. To be precise, 8 wild beast puppets. These 8 puppets have the cultivation of quasi-emperors. They are not afraid of death and are invulnerable. They will be placed in the Taishu dynasty to protect the country's fate and ensure the safety of the Taishu dynasty. Lu Ming said. What? 8 quasi-emperor level puppets. Kong Shishue and Jingma were shocked and then overjoyed. Holy Old Heavenly King and the others could not calm down. This was really a big move. 8 quasi-emperor level puppets were sent out in one go. These puppets were extremely precious. In the history of the Taishu dynasty, there had never been such high-level puppets. Not to mention 8. Even one of them was invaluable. Lu Ming gave 8 of them to Jingma and Kong Shishue. If this was not a big deal, what was? Lu Ming became more and more unfathomable in the hearts of the people. Thank you, Hidden Dragon Heavenly King. Jingma and Kong Shishue quickly got up to thank him. Lu Ming smiled slightly. In fact, there were many such gadgets. He had lost count of how many enemies he had killed and how many rings of holding he had obtained. There were all sorts of things in these storage rings, and there were even more of these puppets. Lu Ming could even take out quite a number of God Thearch realm puppets, let alone quasi-emperor puppets. However, these things were useless to Lu Ming now. Of course, Lu Ming would not give them puppets that were too powerful. For example, he would give them divine emperor puppets. Kong Shishue and Jingma's ambitions might soar and they might invade other forces. In the end, they would attract the jealousy of more powerful forces and bring about a fatal disaster. Jingma was very likely to be Jing Yu's son. Lu Ming naturally did not want anything to happen to them. 8 quasi-emperor level puppets were enough to ensure the stability of the Taishu dynasty. This jade talisman has the method to control the puppets. Lu Ming handed a jade talisman to Kong Shishue. Kong Shishue and Jingma naturally thanked him. Hidden Dragon Heavenly King, can we send some young people to cultivate with you? Kong Shishue asked tentatively. Lu Ming smiled in his heart. Kong Shishue wanted to cultivate her own forces. However, Lu Ming did not care. The Taishu dynasty was too small. Lu Ming was not interested in it at all. He immediately nodded and said, of course. Thank you, Hidden Dragon Heavenly King. Come, let me toast you. Kong Shishue was overjoyed. She raised her cup and drank it in one gulp. Then, everyone drank and chatted. The atmosphere was harmonious, especially the Undying Demon Lord. He seemed to have forgotten the unpleasant things that had happened before. After 3 rounds of drinking, Lu Ming got up and said goodbye. Everyone, please get ready. I'll go back to the Hidden Dragon Palace and pick you up later, Lu Ming said. Then he stepped into the air and left. Lu Ming, let me see you off, Blue Merchant said. Lu Ming nodded. He knew that Blue Merchant had something to say to him in private. Soon, the two of them left the Taishu Saint capital and stood in the starry sky. Lan Shu, I have something to ask you too. Is Lan Ling doing well? Why don't I see her in the Taishu Saint capital? Lu Ming asked. When he mentioned Lan Ling, he could not help but feel guilty. I was about to tell you about Ling. She's no longer in the Taishu dynasty. Blue Merchant said. She's no longer in the Taishu dynasty? Where did she go? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. About 200 years after you left, she also left. She said that she wanted to go out to train and improve her cultivation. I don't know where exactly she went. Actually, she's very stubborn. When she decided to leave, even I, as her father, could not stop her. I could only let her go. I wonder how she is now. Sigh. Blue Merchant sighed deeply as he spoke. He suddenly felt that his decision back then was wrong. Back then, he wanted to match Lu Ming and Lan Ling. However, Lu Ming's talent was too high. When his cultivation increased, it was like a hot knife cutting through butter. Now, it was even more unfathomable. To put it bluntly, Lan Ling and Lu Ming were not on the same path. The difference in talent was too great. They were not compatible at all. If he had not tried to match Lu Ming and Lan Ling back then, this would not have happened. Lan Shu, I'm sorry. Lu Ming was full of apologies. He recalled the scene of him bidding farewell to Lan Ling before he left. At that time, Lan Ling stubbornly said that she would catch up to Lu Ming's cultivation. She would definitely catch up to Lu Ming's cultivation. Back then, Lu Ming said that he would wait for her to catch up. Perhaps it was because of these words that Lan Ling went out to explore. She was really a stubborn girl, just like Mulan's back then. Lu Ming, you don't have to apologize. Marriage is a matter of mutual love. I was muddle-headed back then. Blue Merchant smiled. Lu Ming was speechless because he really did not know what to say. Sigh now, I just hope that Ling can be safe. Blue Merchant sighed. The primitive universe was vast and boundless. There were as many universe-level forces as there were hairs on an ox. It was very dangerous to wander in the universe. He only hoped that Lan Ling could be safe. Lan Shu, don't worry. Lan Ling is a good person. She should be fine. When she succeeds in her cultivation, we will meet again in the future. Lu Ming comforted. I hope so. Okay, I will go back and prepare. You should go and see your parents. Blue Merchant said and then went to the Taishu sacred capital. Lu Ming sighed in his heart. He then stepped into the air and headed toward the Heavenly King Mansion. Just as Lu Ming left the Taishu sacred capital, the Wu people's ancestral planet welcomed two groups of guests. Everyone in the Wu people, including the ancestral patriarch who had been in seclusion, came out to welcome the guests outside the ancestral planet. These two groups of guests were from the 10 most powerful races, the angel race and the blood race. Did you really find out where Lu Ming's family is? An overlord of the angel race stepped out. His body was enveloped in a pure white light and his energy was so violent that the sky shook. This was a divine lord overlord. Chapter 45-26. Feeling the powerful aura of the angel tribe, the people of the sorcerer tribe trembled in fear. Although the witch race was one of the top races in the universe, it was still a far cry from the angel race, one of the top 10 races. There were only 2 people in the sorcerer tribe who could remain calm. They were the 2 ancestral patriarchs of the Wu people and they were both very old. If Lu Ming were here, he would definitely recognize one of them. He was the grand cultivator of the Wu people who had chased Lu Ming to the dragon race's home planet. Lu Ming had killed his descendant and he had been trying to kill Lu Ming. He had even participated in the attack on the dragon race's home planet. The 2 ancestral patriarchs of the Wu people were also divine lords, but they were only at the first level of the divine lord realm. On the great desolate 10,000 races roll, only the top 100 great races had divine master experts overseeing them. However, those with high cultivation and many years of cultivation knew that the races that were ranked near the top 100 also had divine master realm existences overseeing them. It was just that these people were usually in seclusion all year round. As the existences who were responsible for suppressing the fate of their race, they rarely made a move. The Wu people were ranked around 130th on the roll of 10,000 races, so it was normal for them to have divine lord realm overlords. It's true. After many years of investigation, we finally found where Lu Ming came from. He came from a place called the Taishu dynasty. That's only a pseudo-universal force and it's too remote. No one would have thought that the talented Lu Ming would come from such a remote place, but Lu Ming was indeed born there. Besides, his family and friends are all there, the Divine Lord Realm Overlord said. His name was Wu Si and he was one of the only 2 Divine Lords of the Wu people. Good, very good. Ha ha ha, as long as we take down Lu Ming's family and hand them over to the Heavenly Palace, Lu Ming will obey us. The Heavenly Palace will reward you handsomely. The divine lord of the angel race laughed. At the side, the blood kindred expert also smiled. When the time comes, please put in a good word for us in front of the heavenly palace, Xueqi said, revealing a flattering smile. However, he secretly felt that it was a pity. If they had captured Lu Ming's relatives and handed them over to the heavenly palace, the rewards from the heavenly palace would have gone to the Wu people. However, the Wu people didn't have the right to establish contact with the important figures of the heavenly palace. They could only do so through the angels and vampires. However, if he could make a great contribution to the heavenly human tribe, he would definitely be rewarded handsomely. Their hearts burned with passion. Don't worry, there will be plenty of benefits for you. Now let's go, said the angel race's god master. Immediately, the angels, vampires, and Wu people headed towards the Taishu dynasty. The angel race and the blood race each sent out 2 divine masters. The Wu people had sent out a divine master, Wu Shi. With such a lineup, it was a waste of talent to go to a pseudo-universe level force. Of course, this also proved that they valued Lu Ming's relatives. They had to make sure nothing went wrong. As long as they captured Lu Ming's relatives and friends, even if Lu Ming was hiding in the Heaven Destroyer, the Heavenly Palace would be able to force Lu Ming to submit. Unless Lu Ming didn't care about the lives of his relatives. However, according to the rumors, Lu Ming was a very loyal person. It could be said that once they captured Lu Ming's relatives, they would have Lu Ming's Achilles heel. Just as the angels, vampires, and Wu people were heading towards the Taishu dynasty, Lu Ming had already arrived at the Hidden Dragon Heavenly King residence. He was too fast. He could cross a planetary zone in 1 step. Even though the great illusionary divine level was far from the Hidden Dragon Heavenly King residence, Lu Ming arrived quickly. Not bad at all. Lu Ming looked at a planet in the distance. On the planet, there was a dazzling glow. That was the glow of an array. Around the planet, there were huge battleships flying around the planet, surrounding it so tightly that not even a drop of water could leak out. However, such a defense was useless against Lu Ming. He took a step forward and passed through the layers of defense. He entered the planet and came to the foot of a mountain range. He scanned the area with his spiritual awareness and knew that this mountain range was where his relatives and friends lived. It was also where the Hidden Dragon Heavenly King residence was located. This statue. Isn't it Emoli? Lu Ming saw a huge statue at the foot of the mountain. It was at least 10,000 feet tall. He immediately recognized that this was the statue of his second disciple, Ouyang Moli. How dare you call Patriarch Moli by his name? Are you tired of living? A few young men shouted and appeared in front of Lu Ming. They looked at Lu Ming with hostility. Lu Ming casually glanced at them. He was very clear about the background of these few young men. The few youths looked like they had just broken through to the empty god realm. Such a cultivation was considered weak in the Taishu Holy Court. However, they were very arrogant. Patriarch Emoli? This kid has become a patriarch? Lu Ming was confused. Could it be that these few brats were all Ouyang Moli's disciples and grand disciples? In that case, wouldn't they become Lu Ming's disciples and grand disciples? He went out for a trip, and when he came back, he suddenly had a bunch of disciples and grand disciples? Most importantly, these kids are so arrogant. Did Ouyang Moli teach them? Lu Ming blurted out these words involuntarily. However, when they landed in the ears of the few young men, it was a great disrespect to their patriarch. They immediately exploded. How dare you call Patriarch Emoli a kid? It's over. It's over. Do you know who our Patriarch Emoli is? What is his identity? He actually dares to use such a tone to call Ancestor Moli. He's really finished. Now, give him a chance to admit his mistake. Kneel down in front of Patriarch Emoli's statue and kowtow. Patriarch Emoli is a magnanimous man. Maybe he will spare your life. The young men clamored. You want him to admit his mistake in front of the statue? Are you serious? Lu Ming said with an inexplicable smile on his face. Would this kid dare to admit his mistake to Ouyang Moli? Nonsense. Hurry up and admit your mistake. We think it's an unintentional mistake. We will spare you this time. Yes, 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 quickly admit your mistake. You have offended the patriarch. You must admit your mistake. The young men shouted. All right then. Let's see. Lu Ming smiled and stepped forward, coming to the front of the statue. Kid, my disciples want me to admit my mistake. I hope you won't cry." After saying that, Lu Ming cupped his fists. Rumble. The moment Lu Ming cupped his fists, the statue shook. Then, tears flowed out of the statue's two huge eyes. The statue was crying. "Look, the patriarch statue is crying. What's going on? What's going on? Could it be that kid's doing? Kid, what did you do? You still dare to play tricks at this time?" The young men shouted angrily, thinking that it was Lu Ming's trick. "Shut up, all of you." At this time, a loud roar came from the mountain range. Chapter 45-27. Shut up, you brats. A loud roar came from the depths of the mountain. At the same time, a figure dashed out from the mountain at an extremely fast speed. In the next moment, the figure appeared in front of everyone. He was tall and sturdy, and his black hair fluttered in the wind. Who else could it be other than Ouyang Moli? "Old ancestor, you're here." "Old ancestor, it's him. He offended you." We were about to ask him to admit his mistake, but we didn't expect him to play tricks. The young men pointed at Lu Ming and said, "Shut up, all of you." Ouyang Moli roared. His voice was like a thunderclap, and he stared at the young men fiercely like a lion. Ouyang Moli was about to cry. "Don't these brats know how to read my face? My face is already so ugly, and they still don't know what's going on?" The few young men shuddered at the thought of this. Old ancestor is angry? Did we do something wrong? Is that person's identity not simple? In the next moment, their pupils rapidly widened because a scene that shocked them had appeared. Plop! Ouyang Moli knelt in front of Lu Ming and kowtowed. Disciple Moli greets Master. "Master, you're finally back. I haven't seen you for many years, and I've missed you so much." "What?" The young men were petrified. Their mouths were wide open, and they were completely dumbfounded. "Master? Old ancestor Moli's master? Isn't that their ancestor?" According to the legends, old ancestor Ouyang Moli's master was the true leader of the Hidden Dragon Heavenly King Mansion. The legendary figure of the Taishu dynasty, the peerless genius? They were actually so arrogant in front of this legendary figure, and even asked him to kowtow to Ouyang Moli's statue to admit his mistake? No wonder Ouyang Moli's statue was crying. They all wanted to cry. "You're so impressive now. You're already an old ancestor, and the disciples you taught are still so arrogant? Are you out of control?" Lu Ming said indifferently. His voice was a little cold. "Oh no, Master is angry." Ouyang Moli roared in his heart. He was really about to cry. In his heart, he was already cursing those few youths to death. He was not far from this place and could sense the statue. Not long after Lu Ming arrived, he sensed it and immediately rushed over. Unexpectedly, he was still a little late. However, he secretly rejoiced that he had arrived in time. If Lu Ming had really apologized to his statue, he would have vomited blood. Even if he wasn't hammered to death by Lu Ming, he would be hammered to death by his senior martial sister, Xiang Xiang. "Master, it's a misunderstanding, a misunderstanding. You brats, why aren't you coming over here to kowtow and apologize to your grandmaster?" Ouyang Moli shouted. A few young men hurriedly ran over and knelt on the ground, bowing their heads and kowtowing. "Patriarch, please calm down. We didn't do it on purpose. We didn't know it was you. If we had known, we wouldn't have dared to do it even if you gave us 10 guts. Ancestor, you are a magnanimous person. Please forgive us." The few young men were crying and snot. There was no need to mention how sad and regretful they were. "Master, these brats are used to being fawned on by others. No one dares to offend them in the Hidden Dragon Heavenly King Palace. That's why they're so arrogant. I'll teach them a lesson in the future. Will you forgive them? Actually, they are not bad people. Hee. Ouyang Moli put on a cheeky smile and pleaded with Lu Ming. "Go, go." Lu Ming waved his hand casually. He was too lazy to lower himself to the level of a few juniors. It would be beneath his status. However, the most important thing was that these young men were not bad people. This could be seen from their previous actions. The few young men only asked Lu Ming to apologize to Ouyang Moli and let him go. It could be seen that they were not bad people. If they were bad people, they might have wanted to kill him. If that was the case, Lu Ming would not let them go so easily. "Master has agreed to let you go. You brats, why aren't you thanking Master and leaving at once?" Ouyang Moli berated. The few youths naturally thanked him profusely and fled as fast as they could. Master, it's great that you're back. Senior sister and the others will be overjoyed if they know that you're back. I'll send them a message. Ouyang Moli immediately took out his sound-conducting jade talisman and sent over a few messages. Master, come with me, Ouyang Moli said with a smile. Lu Ming and Ouyang Moli stepped into the air and headed deep into the mountain range. How did you become a progenitor? Did you recruit a disciple? Lu Ming asked. Haha, master, at that time, I saw a few very talented seedlings. My hands itched and I accepted them as my disciples. I didn't expect that those brats would also accept a bunch of disciples each. Just like that they have been passed down. Ouyang Moli explained. No wonder your cultivation is improving so slowly. What about your senior sister? Did she recruit a disciple too? Lu Ming said. He knew that Ouyang Moli was only a 9th-layer heavenly god. Initially, Zhang Xian had predicted that Ouyang Moli would be able to achieve a breakthrough to the God-King realm based on the vast amount of resources he had left behind before he left. However, Ouyang Moli was only a 9th-layer heavenly god, which was a lot lower than what he had expected. It was most likely because he had recruited a disciple that affected his cultivation progress. She didn't recruit a disciple and has been focusing on her cultivation. She has already broken through to the Divine King realm. Ouyang Moli said. What about Shen Huang and the others? Did they recruit a disciple? Lu Ming asked again. No, I'm the only one who recruited a disciple. Ouyang Moli said awkwardly. They're here. Lu Ming suddenly looked deep into the mountain range. There were at least a few dozen figures flying over. Lu Ming's eyesight was so sharp that he could see the figures clearly even though they were far away. His parents, Lu Yuntian and Li Ping, flew over with smiles on their faces. There was also his son, Lu Shenhuang, his wife, and his granddaughter, Lu Qi his first disciple, Xiang Xiang, his 2 in-name disciples, Hua Qi, Pang Shi, Yuan Huan, and the others who were closest to Lu Ming had all arrived. Soon, dozens of people arrived before them. Ming. Li Ping flew to Lu Ming quickly and sized him up from head to toe. Her eyes were filled with tears and longing. You're a woman, you're always tearing up when you see me. Lu Yuntian pretended to scold her, but his eyes were misty too. He looked at Lu Ming and said, It's great that you're back. Father and mother have both achieved the God realm. Lu Ming scanned with his spiritual sense and discovered that Lu Yuntian and Li Ping had both achieved the God realm. Lu Yuntian had even reached the true God realm. Lu Yuntian had always been fond of cultivation. After coming to the Eldritch universe, he had worked even harder. Although his talent was average, he had also reached the true God realm with Lu Ming's vast resources. As for Li Ping, she didn't like cultivation at all. She was just an ordinary person and had relied on Lu Ming's resources to increase her cultivation. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.